make sure we get connected here. All right. On that note, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, everybody. Wonder Puppy here. We're going to be going over the campfire for Diablo 4's Season 6, as well as the expansion for the Vessel of Hatred. This is content that I missed live, so we're going to be catching up on it. Nobody's done anything. I've gone over some things just because I had to do a pre-game plan with some of my stuff with the team that I'm going to be running with. So we're gonna do a deep dive on this and get into it and all that jazz. So welcome, thank you for being here. We're gonna give all of our insights, tips, tricks, all that jazz, and talk about everything in depth as we go through this. So this is gonna be a nice long video, but thank you for being here, and let's buckle up and get to it. So I really turn off emotes on OBS. It's okay. The emotes are fine. I just don't want like audio conflicting stuff, you know. But yeah, let's roll it here. What in the hell is this? Oh, that's weird. Why are you there? Go away. Okay.
For developer update, this is a very special Diablo 4 developer update, as this is our pre-launch stream before Vessel of Hatred, which is actually going to be shipping here next week, which is crazy to think about. I'm joined here by Mr. Brent Gibson, game director for Diablo 4. I know before we have our big show, you wanted to talk a little bit about Vessel of Hatred and what's to come.
Yeah, this is a really big week. The fact that we're finally on the doorstep of shipping Vessel of Hatred is a bit surreal. We've been working on it for a very long time. You know, over the course of the last 5 seasons, so much has changed. And we're excited to talk about some of those details today. Everything kicks off with our epic journey through Nahantu, where we're going to be telling the next chapter of Mephisto. And it doesn't really stop there. We haven't talked about it much yet, but we've actually created a custom quest at the end of the story that leads those players who haven't gotten to endgame will get to endgame.
That's awesome.
Along the way, you're also going to find brand new ways to play with the Kuros Undercity. We've talked about this time attack dungeon. That's super cool. We'll go into more detail on that today. We have our co-op PvE experience with the Dark Citadel. For those hardcore players that like playing with friends, you're going to have something really cool there. And we also have brand new ways of gaining power. Whether you're hiring mercenaries and leveling them up, or finding our new powerful runes that create rune words to socket into your gear, you're going to have a lot more ways to actually alter the builds that you've been playing with all this time. So at the end of all this, we have the star of our show, our class that wants to go fast, the Spiritborn, which you know, everybody got a sneak peek at that quite a while ago. And we have been polishing it and getting it ready to make sure that it's the most fun it can be at launch.
Yeah, and it's great because like we're actually going to be going through all these aspects today in the live stream with our kind of our subject matter experts across each of them. So I know, as we mentioned, next week the Vessel of Hatred will actually be shipping and be released to everyone. Right now the plan is for it to be out on October 8th, and that is still very much the plan. Still the plan. We actually did release a map earlier this week in our What You Need to Know blog that kind of pretty much contains exactly when each of the release dates are going to be, but players can actually end up doing early download right now on PC Battle.net. We do have early download coming up for console this weekend on the 5th, so there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, a lot of excitement going on. The other thing that we did talk about as well is Twitch drops. We do have a Twitch drops campaign that is actually starting at the launch of Vessel of Hatred. It's actually going to be starting on October 8th in Pacific time, so it's about like 12, 16 hours, somewhere around there afterwards, but there's some really cool back pieces, really cool weapons that you can earn, and it goes throughout the whole entire month of October through like that first early part of November. We also have a Support a Streamer program this time around, which is really cool because Support a Streamer actually really helps out some of the smaller streamers that are actually really wanting to, you know, stream Diablo 4, which is really great. If you gift 2 subs for, or if you actually purchase 2 subs across any streamer that is streaming across Diablo 4 and has this enabled, you'll end up receiving the mount that we actually just showed right there. And then if you do an additional 2, you actually get the mount armor as well. So it's a really cool way of helping out some of the smaller and mid-sized streamers out there that, you know, really benefit from some of these programs. And it's great to see all these new faces as they actually jump into Vessel of Hatred. The next thing we do also want to talk about is a cool promotion that we're actually doing with Trolley here in the US. Trolley actually makes some candy. So they're like sour bright crawlers and things like that. There's actually some really cool weapon skins available if you actually purchase trolley specific products here in the US. We actually have them here on set, but you can see all the cool weapon skins. But if you actually purchase these, and you'll see that they're clearly marked with like Diablo 4, they got the Spiritborn on them, and you can actually end up taking a photo of your receipt, going to a specific site, and then you'll end up getting kind of the rewards in game. And you also have a chance of actually winning an Xbox too, which is really cool. So, and this is a cool promotion that I think Xbox is actually doing across multitudes of titles, including like World of Warcraft, for instance, because this was actually going on with the War Within here at Blizzard. So yeah, like if you're in the US, look for trolley products. Thankfully, we have a bunch of bags here, so expect me to actually be eating these throughout the stream.
We've had like 7 bags in the last 2 days.
Yeah, as we've been like prepping for the stream, like this has been my whole entire diet. Actually, no, I've been eating normal food, but at the same time, this is like my kryptonite right here. So expect me to be eating these throughout the stream. It's my favorite stream because we have snacks now, so I'm like, this is perfect. This is perfect. But one thing, again, we wanted to mention, which is the release date. And I think we have a release date map here. So yeah, as you guys can see, on October 7th in Irvine at 4 p.m. Pacific, or Pacific time, or California time, if you want to say it, is when the actual expansion is going to be launching. This is a global launch, so everyone is coming out at the same time. The world is round, so you can't get everyone in on October 8th, so that's why there's some in on October 7th, but we wanted to make sure that we could get as many people in on October 8th, and of course a little earlier on October 7th, but everyone's coming out at the exact same time. So looking forward to everyone jumping in. We do have an action-packed show today, a lot of stuff to cover. We are going to be hitting up on the patch 2.0 PTR changes first, is first up in the agenda. Because we have so many things to share, I will note this is our 20th live stream for Diablo 4 that we've ever done, which is really cool. And this is also our first time we're actually streaming on TikTok. We already stream on X, we stream on Twitch, and we stream on YouTube. So this is kind of a nice momentous occasion. But because of how much content we have and how many guests we have, we are going to say that we will have some small little breaks while we actually mic new people up, bring them into the studio, and then swap them out for other things. But we are going to be talking first about patch 2.0 PTR and the feedback that we actually received from players. And then separately, we're also going to be talking about Season 6, Season of Hatred Rising. And separately, we will finish off the show with all the Vessel of Hatred features and going into a little bit more of a deeper dive, something that you were talking about, Brent. So.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I mean, we have so many people coming in that we're having to pack them in rows.
Yeah,
so
exactly. You're gonna see multiple levels of people in the studio. So we're gonna take a quick break while we get the first group in for our patch 2.0 PTR feedback overview. So we'll see you in a bit. Awesome. I appreciate everyone bearing with us as we get people mic'd up. We're going to be doing this a couple times throughout this stream, but we're here to talk about the PTR learnings from patch 2.0 PTR, which we had earlier this month. Super beneficial. PTRs have been great for us since we've started actually hosting them for Diablo 4. And of course, this one was a very, very big one because we have a lot of big changes coming with Vessel of Hatred in Season 6. But I know we want to jump straight into it. So, Aislinn, I know you're going to start us off and talk about some progression changes.
Yes, I am. So like you said, Adam, let's jump.
Oh, you actually, before we do that, sorry. I just realized no one knows who we are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they know who I am. There we go. There. I was just like, wait a minute. Of course, we have some familiar faces, but if you guys want to do quick intros.
Yeah, hi. I'm Colin. I'm a lead designer.
Hey, I'm Aislinn. I'm a systems designer.
Hi, I'm Charles. I'm a class designer.
Hey y'all, I'm Anthony. I'm an associate class designer.
Awesome. Great. There we go. Now we got everyone settled. Aislinn, do you want to talk about some of the progression changes?
Yes, absolutely. So, Adam, like you said, the PTR has been just fantastic for us. It's given us so much data, and the feedback you guys give is just pivotal to us launching in the state we want to see the game in. And, you know, everyone wants to see the game in. And so, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about some changes we've made because of it. So first of all, monster intensity. Something we saw in the early game was people weren't noticing the changes in monster intensity because people were skipping through difficulties fairly quickly. And so we've decided to move monster intensity from scaling over normal, hard, expert, and penitent to scaling over torment 1 through 4, because you're going to be progressing through torments a little bit slower, so you're going to be able to feel the intensity changes, I think, a little more potently.
Yeah, there's a bit more jumps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, the intensity system was essentially monsters just become a little bit more reliable in their damage.
Right.
They start to predict your movement a little bit more on the projectiles. It's not a massive change, but it should sort of make the monsters feel a little bit more aggressive and dangerous.
Yeah, they just become a little more lethal, I think, ultimately, beyond numerical changes. Second up I want to talk about is one that I'm really, really happy and excited about, actually, is that elites, unique elites, and super elites are 3 different types of elites you can actually fight, if you know that or not. That's the thing. And previously, they all did very different amounts of damage from one another. Like, for example, a super elite might deal actually 2 times the amount of damage of a normal elite. And what that was causing was when an elite spawned an affix, like lightning enchanted, or poison, or whatever, the super elites would do 2 times more damage with those affixes, but you didn't really have any way to tell, right? There was no way to tell if an affix was spawned by an elite or a super elite. And so kind of seemingly randomly, an affix might deal 2 times more damage to you out of nowhere. And so what we've done is we've normalized the damage that all of these different elite types actually deal, so that when you do see the affixes that they're spewing out, you can expect the damage you're going to receive. Like, you know how much it's going to hit you for.
A lot more consistent.
Way more consistent, way more predictable, which is really helpful for not getting randomly one shot.
Our favorites, those.
Yeah. And then finally, on difficulty, we have some changes to standard difficulty tiers. We know some of you guys are looking for a challenge, so let's take a look at what a challenge looks like. All right, so we have a level 1 character here in Kiovashad going to the statue to change their difficulty. So what are they going to change it to? Well, before they could access hard, normal, hard, and expert, but now they can access penitent at level 1.
That's mode we only play.
Why would you play anything else?
Yes. So you have to beat the base campaign on your account once, and then you can go into penitence, and let's see how that turns out for this person. Oh yeah,
sure it's
just
going
an
great.
Helltide.
Just a few a few too many demons.
Just a couple few too many demons. Yeah.
Mythic uniques.
So, so you can do penitence at level 1 now. It's pretty hard, guys. So if you plan to go in at level 1, be prepared. But seriously, we know people really wanted to be able to push their builds as far as they could, as early as they could.
Yeah.
And now you can. So whenever you feel like you're ready for penitent during your leveling journey, hop in there and see how you do.
Yeah, I know that was like one of the biggest points of feedback we got during this PTR, which was like, hey, we would like to see if Penitent wasn't like gated way further down the line and if it could be brought in. So it's now available at level 1.
Yeah.
And as we've shown in the footage, it can be difficult, but I think what's nice is like if someone creates alts and they end up, finding a bunch of mythic uniques and stuff which you can use at earlier levels, you then can at least potentially start off in Penitent a little bit earlier and stay with a higher difficulty in that type of.
So my only input on that, they didn't immediately get deleted. We don't know what the damage like you deal to them is per se. When you guys were telling me that they got one shot, I was expecting to watch that footage and watch that guy get deleted. He took a lot of hits. And they didn't hit them, they didn't do anything. So we didn't see what the damage looks like at level 1 against those mobs. I'm gonna assume it's gonna be a lot of life and stuff, right? They made it to like be accessible by people, but they probably made it really like difficult scaling wise. Now they might show more stuff, I don't know. But if that's the video you guys were referring to where they didn't attack anything and they stood in the middle of everything and they didn't get instantly deleted, I'm not saying it's what we're gonna go with, but it might be plausible to get away with doing penitent. Maybe. Keyword maybe. But let's continue.
Way, which is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We really want to embrace like the sort of choose your difficulty that we really liked with the mine cages in season 5, 4, and 5. And again, like to your point, alts just are able to speed run their way to max level, right, by playing at a really hard difficulty.
Exactly.
So it should feel a lot better.
And it feels great to just hop into Penitent early, like when you're capable of doing it.
does,
It's
yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah, we don't necessarily expect everyone to play at Penitent. It's really hard to play at
It
your,
is hard.
at
It
your
is
own
hard.
risk. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, your character needs to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some itemization changes. So we got a lot of feedback that once you got to max level and you were starting that ancestral grind, you were stuck with these non-ancestral items for a pretty long time. And we do like that, but we know that people want to see the journey for those non-ancestral items to be a little punchier. And so we've made some targeted changes here to ensure that non-ancestral legendaries have more, punch to them. So we've increased the amount of masterworking you can put on a non-ancestral legendary from 4 to 8. We are also allowing them to be tempered twice. Previously, both of those values were exclusive to ancestral items, but now non-ancestrals can go up to that. Additionally, we saw that people were going to like the boss ladder, or they were just finding uniques out in the world, and they didn't drop it didn't feel like they were dropping as ancestral as often as they should have.
Right, because they're so rare.
Right, they're so rare, and you want finding a unique item to be an exciting moment, and so we've tripled the chance for them to drop as ancestral. And this should help a lot, especially during the boss ladder, when you're killing these uber bosses and they're dropping lots of uniques. A lot more of them are going to turn out to be ancestral.
Definitely. And this should mean that once you're starting in around level 60, you have a lot more progression on your equipment that sort of bridges the gap to ancestral. We also heard a lot of feedback that second tempered affix really is what enables your build to come online. And that's what we're trying to do with this system of ancestral, is that you can get your build online, but then there's still items that you can chase that just enhance that build.
Right.
And we saw that not having that second tempered affix and not having those 8 masterwork ranks really sort of hindered your ability to get that build online, to get into the fun and start blasting.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because we don't want you to feel like you have to find ancestrals for your build to function. And this change is working towards making that true.
Definitely. So you still have those items you can chase, but you can still get those endgame builds online pretty quickly.
Yep, for sure. And finally, on itemization, we are adding some Scrolls of Restoration to the Season Journey. The Scrolls of Restoration are the scrolls of tempering that we talked about at Gamescom. You can use them to reset the tempering chances on an item. And we wanted to add these to the Season Journey so you could just have a couple of deterministic ways to acquire them and use them on your gear.
And this, of course, is not the only place you can earn these scroll of restorations.
No.
You can earn them throughout the world. There's a small drop chance, and we'll be actually talking about another way of earning them later on as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that I'm excited about on the unique changes, if you equate greater affixes in Season 5 to ancestral, you're actually going to have a higher chance to get an ancestral unique compared to getting a greater affix on a unique than live, right? So it means that uniques are really exciting. You might actually get like the Staff of Endless Rage, for example. Maybe you're not playing a Fireball Sork, but now you're like, oh, well, I have an ancestral version of this
That's
unique.
huge.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so it
Time to go
really
Fireball.
kind of gets you to experiment a little bit more, and we really like that aspect about those uniques sometimes being a lot more powerful.
Yeah, no, we want that moment when you see a unique on the ground to be really fun and exciting, and seeing it drop as an ancestral with greater affixes is about as exciting as it gets for uniques. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about some player power changes based on PTR feedback. So I want to start by framing our goals for Torment difficulties. So Torment 1, we want all content to be available in the game. You can fight Lilith, you can fight the boss ladder, you can go to the Dark Citadel, etc. All these activities are available. Torment 4 is intended to be aspirational content. And what that means is you've already unlocked everything in the game when you enter Torment 1. But Torment 4 is like the essence of Diablo build crafting, where you're just pushing your character as far as you can go. And Torment 4 exists for that purpose, for people who want to push their character as far as they can go. And with that said, and the reason why I'm saying this is because we were seeing that people were getting to Torment 4 way faster and way easier than we were hoping for in the PTR. And, which is just another great, it's great that we did the PTR because we saw that. And with that all said, we've made some changes to kind of keep Torment 4 this, really challenging and exciting thing to reach. We've we've reverted the skill damage bonus from main stat back to what it was in Season 5. So we had actually doubled it in the PTR, but we found that that was just giving players too much power.
Too much.
So we sent it back. And we also pulled back on legendary glyph power a bit. Colin, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we reduced the scaling on the glyphs quite a bit because we found that it was really devaluing a lot of the aspect rolls or rolls on your gear. Like when you're getting 2,000 additive damage from a glyph, it's really hard to actually feel anything on your gear through tempering or through those affix that are dropping. So essentially what we've done is pare that back. We've redistributed it. We'll cover that a little bit on like where we put some of that power. But overall, we think this feels a lot better. Glyphs aren't just carrying like 80% of your power on a build. And it just feels a lot better so that it doesn't feel as sort of mandatory that I have to get all 5 glyphs and level them up to actually be pushing difficulty.
Yeah.
It's a lot more about what are the aspects you have, what are the uniques you have, what are the nodes you're actually getting on the Paragon board. I think it feels a lot better.
Yeah, and like I think one of the important things to say about this is that like it's really awesome to get a tremendous amount of power from one source, but because there are so many different sources of power in the game, if one source gives too much power, it makes the other sources feel kind of unimportant. And that's not fun. So we want to make sure that every source of power in the game is contributing to your build in very meaningful ways. And so this change is helping other sources of power feel really punchy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know tons of changes here with player power, tons of changes with like progression, including difficulty and itemization. Do we have anything else on progression? Or
I think one thing I think that's really important to touch on is the torment goals here, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a definite fundamental shift from Season 5 in that you think about World Tier 3 into World Tier 4 and you're sort of racing to get to World Tier 4 as fast as possible because that's where all the best items can drop.
Yeah.
And we've sort of just changed that to Torment 1 is where all the best items can drop. It's where everything unlocks. But essentially Torment 2, 3, and 4 increase the odds of those things happening. So it's just efficiency, right? We don't necessarily want to say you must get to Torment 4 to experience the game or to get the best drops in the game, similar to World Tier 4 and Season 5. It's a very different feeling. So we're excited to see how that plays out, and we want to sort of see what you all think as well.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, you know, all of the content, all of the best gear can be found in Torment 1. So if that's where your build feels most comfortable farming, that's great. You can still achieve all your goals. You can really max out your character there. It just, you get a reward for pushing this harder difficulty by more efficiency.
Yeah, and that's like what affords Torment 4 the means to, or like the space to be really hard.
Definitely.
Is because you don't have to get there. And so it can be really, really challenging. And you know, some players really love that, and that's awesome.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I know the next topic we want to talk about is some of the big system changes that are actually coming with Vessel of Hatred, and also changes that we're applying post PTR from things that we actually learned. Colin, you want to walk us through and start us off with some of the Paragon stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we got a ton of feedback from the PTR, and we took a look at Paragon. That was one of the bigger changes that we made, where we capped the boards, because we feel like that gives us a lot more space to increase the power of each of these boards and make the choice more about what is the board you're looking for. So what we've done here is we've added a bunch of normal nodes, so those are things like stats that empower those glyphs, to upgrade that legendary glyph radius. We added them. It was kind of sad, like there weren't actually a lot of nodes to flesh it out and sort of build up that Paragon, that extra glyph range that you're going to get from upgrading it to legendary. So we've done that. We added around 8 to every board. And then the starting board, I think we went to like 12 or something like that, just because, you know, the starting board should feel really good with that first glyph. The next thing we've done is we've taken a look at a lot of the rare and magic nodes, and we've just made them generically more useful. So you think about like two-handed bludgeoning damage on the barbarian is like, okay, like I guess I can only benefit if I'm doing this one very specific thing. And we've just opened that up to say damage, right? That's going to scale everything across your character as opposed to like while you're doing this sort of obscure thing. So we think that feels a lot better. We've also just sort of taken a look at what are the affixes we're giving, like fucking potion healing. I know you're all going to be really sad.
That's my favorite stuff.
I know you're all super sad to see
You're
that
the only one.
we've taken potion healing out. But we've just changed it to healing received. We've also just taken a look at things like damage reduction from dots and made it damage reduction. So it should be a lot more generically useful, and those boards should feel a lot more punchy and open-ended, which we really like. And that's sort of doubling down on the spirit of what we've done with Season 4 atomization, right? Just sort of taking back fact, some of these conditional things aren't necessarily adding a ton of value to your build identity. They're just opening things up. And then the next thing we've done is we talked about redistributing some of the power on those glyphs, and we've taken a look at all of our nodes, all of magic and rare nodes, and we've just buffed all of them. So we've doubled all the additive bonuses on rare and magic nodes. We've increased the damage reduction values by about 1.5x, so they should feel a lot more chunky. And as you're journeying through Paragon, right, it should feel like you have more options than to just bum rush every glyph, socket, and every legendary node. There should be some pretty punchy, like, damage sources that you can get, damage reduction sources you can get. We've also done things like all the resistance nodes you have on the Paragon board actually give max resistance as well now. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of changes there. So this is one of the first steps we're taking to really improve the Paragon system with the new sort of philosophy of like, we want you to pick what boards you want. And we expect to be updating more in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that this harkens back to what we were just saying, which is that, it's really fun for all of your sources of power to be meaningful. And so we're basically just taking like the tons and tons of power that was in glyphs and kind of slightly redistributing it to Paragon. So going through your Paragon board is just more interesting and fun.
Definitely. Cool.
Next up, we got, I think, Infernal Hordes.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you remember, Infernal Hordes was under construction during the PTR as we were fitting in, like, how does this going to work with the greater equipment chest, turning into ancestral items. And there are 3 things that we really wanted to tackle as a part of this release, right? Infernal Hordes is an eternal game mode, so we wanted to take the learnings we got from Season 5 and apply it to this next update. So one of the things we saw was that loot was just dominating the reward landscape here. Like getting 200 legendaries from one source of activity is cool for Season 5, and it's the brand new activity for Season 5. That's awesome, but we wanted to just readjust it, refit it back in. We still have the Codex of Power that lets you store all these legendary powers, so we felt like we wanted to take more of a quality over quantity approach here. And one of the things that was sort of frustrating about that quality miss was that you didn't really have a way to reliably target those unique items that were coming out of Infernal Hordes. If you think about it, you had to open a chest and just hope that you were going to get one of the unique items out of this chest. And that sort of led to a frustrating and tedious reward flow where you're just constantly opening up these 28th chests over and over and over. I know I've spent, probably more time opening the material chest than actually...
I mean, I think that's everyone's favorite pastime, just like running around the material chest.
Like, pull down on the chest, like, oh my god, just give me my fucking shit. So it takes forever. So we've taken a look at, how we're going to actually deliver these keys. We've taken them out of the crafting system, but they're not too rare. They're just uncommonly found throughout the world. We want this to be like an oh shit moment when the key drops, just because you're going to get a ton of XP from killing the hordes. You're going to get a ton of materials and a ton of items as well. So we think that will make the keys feel a lot more interesting, and it's not going to bloat your inventory as much. And you really want to use them when you get them.
It's not gonna blow your inventory, but you're also gonna crash everybody's game when you go to spend 1,500 ether on a chest that spits out materials, and I have a feeling that's gonna crash somebody's game so hard. But hey, I'll take being able to just spend all of my resources because they just have the greater equipment, which is guaranteed GAs. Hopefully that's how that should be. But then also being able to choose spending all of your materials or all of your ether on materials or gold, that's honestly kind of nice. So we'll see what happens, but I think that's kind of funny. I just want the Lilith statue. Yeah, it's a dope statue. Skull is saying it's like $250 or something like that. Expensive, but I like it. It's really cool. I like this helm, or like this like statue of Diablo's head up here or whatever. I really like that. The soul stone, it's also kind of cool. I'll always love the props. Plushy Mephisto dog. All right, I'm gonna shut up. Let's keep watching.
So the next part here is if we could go back to the slide. Oh, if we could go to Infernal Hordes.
Infernal Hordes. There we go.
The council boss, no matter what, as long as you kill that council, they're going to drop dungeon boss loot, which is going to be legendaries, crafting materials, gold, etc., on top of the Infernal Horde unique items, and that's going to scale with Torment. So guaranteed every single time you kill that council, you are going to get unique items that are specific to Infernal Hordes.
That's great because those Infernal Horde uniques are pretty sick.
Definitely. So no more waiting at the chest to get that drop. It's just going to happen. And it feels a lot more like the boss ladder, where it's like, okay, I want to get Infernal Horde unique items. I'm going to be able to reliably get those and get a pull at the sort of slot machine there. And then the next thing here is we've updated the chests. So the chests of greater equipment are going to drop those scrolls of restoration or retempering. So you're going to be able to get them reliably from the Infernal Hordes, not just the Dark Citadel. And that should feel pretty meaty and good. And then we've also guaranteed some amount of ancestral items from that greater equipment chest. And ancestral items are very much more coveted than just greater affix items. So that should feel pretty meaty. And then the chest of materials is now just going to convert all your Aether into materials. You don't have to like constantly open the chest. You turn it into a bunch of masterworking materials, gems. It should feel a lot more snappy and, you know, less time looting, more time playing. And the gold chest is the same.
Yeah, because just gives you punch.
Next up, I know we have the reward stuff. We kind of spoiled it. But, so we can just skip this because everyone's already seen it.
So rewards, this is just a bunch of miscellaneous tuning and making the game feel better and more rewarding. Right? So we've significantly increased the ancestral drop rate from Nightmare Dungeons and Whispers. Thank you to the person who ran 1,000 Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh my God.
Definitely fixed the problem there, and that should feel a lot more rewarding. We've also added just experience to the Nightmare Dungeon completion, which just feels better as you're grinding that Paragon. Also, while you're leveling up, it's like a pretty good hit of XP. And then we've also done miscellaneous buffs to just miscellaneous things. So Hellborn will drop loot, Butcher is going to drop a guaranteed axe, I believe, a Butcher's axe. The World Boss, Treasure Goblins, those are all going to drop a lot better loot. It's also going to scale with Torment, which should feel good.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for these, like, I guess the Hellborn's not exactly a random encounter, not just the World Boss, but like the Butcher and the Treasure Goblin, these like big meaty encounters, like it makes sense for like these to occur and you're like, give me like good loot because this is uncommon. This doesn't happen that frequently. I want it to be amazing.
It's an exciting moment and the loot should reflect that.
Yeah.
I love that loot explosion. You know?
Yeah, with the Treasure Goblin,
Yeah.
Nothing beats finding a Treasure Goblin at like level 5.
Yeah.
And just chasing it around using your like basic attack.
Yeah, and it guarantee drops a legendary no matter what level you are. So it should feel pretty good. The next thing here is we really love how players, or how you all have sort of embraced the Stronghold experience bonus. We've actually just done that across the game. So campaign feels really good in terms of experience granted. Side quests should feel really good, especially in Nahantu. But what we saw with the Stronghold experience in the PTR is that 2 levels felt a little bit aggressive and like sort of forced you to do Strongholds over and over and over. We've just pared that back down to 1.25 levels, which is still really meaty. Like you're getting an entire level from doing these. It's really fulfilling what we had hoped Strongholds were going to provide, which is an alternative means to level. If you want to ride around the open world and do a bunch of Strongholds, that's absolutely a viable way to level up now. We think that like all the quest content in general just feels a lot better because they're a lot more generous there. The other change I'll note here is that a bulk of that experience is going to be from killing the boss, and it's a first-time reward. So that means you're not going to be able to sort of, you know, cheese running Strongholds over and over and over.
Thank you, Rax, for showing that with your friends from your chat that did that in 20 minutes. We
world record.
Hey, it was a good video. I mean, in all fairness.
Cool. And then the next one here is we heard a ton of feedback that rare and magic items just felt like they're adding a lot of noise to Torment. We're dropping a lot more of them. Now they just get auto-salvaged in Torment. Hooray. So,
get them out of here.
Yeah, get them out. And then the next one is just a nice quality of life. The Paragon glyphs now drop from the pit. So when you're doing a bunch of pit runs, you're also going to be getting glyphs. It just means you don't really have to like go out and do other things if you have a bunch of keys for the pit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm really happy with a lot of those changes. Ancestral drop rates needed to be buffed anyways. We didn't get an accurate portrayal from the PTR because they were dropping as if it was Torment 1 drops when you would move up in higher difficulty. So yeah, you would get more loot, but you wouldn't find, like, how many boss runs did we do? And we seen maybe 1 or 2 GA uniques, but just never got GA uniques. So seeing the ancestral drop rate from Nightmare Dungeons and Whispers being boosted, that's great. More incentive there, especially since they boosted the experience gains for Whispers and everything like that. The Strongholds taking a 0.75 level reduction is still crazy, but it's still a good incentivization. If it's still giving 1.25 levels per stronghold and there's 18, I mean, just to do some quick math on that, right? Like, and of course, as you get higher, it's still going to be a little crazy. It took like 20 boss runs to get a GA unique. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. But again, if there's 18 strongholds in total, counting the 3 in Nahantu, and then you times that by 1.25, not 125, 1.25, you're looking at ish 22.5 levels. If it holds true to being that much per experience, especially if it's a flat rate, if it is just guaranteed to give you no matter what level you're at, then you know that you can start doing this at what is that, 38? Yeah. So 38 would be when you would start doing strongholds. And this isn't to account for mobs that you might kill during. This isn't because they didn't say stronghold experience got adjusted based off of difficulty level. It is the stronghold experience is the same in each difficulty. The only thing that's changing per its rewards per difficulty level is Nightmare or not Nightmare, maybe Nightmare Dungeons, but they said the Tree of Whispers reward caches would give more experience and rewards based off of what tier you're in, right? So if you do normal, you're not getting anything bonus, not bonus experience. Like when you look at the difficulty tiers as well, it tells you 100% bonus, 150% bonus, 250, whatever, right? I think Penitent gives a 175 bonus to golden experience, but it doesn't tell you the negatives, like mobs have 50% increased life or they hit 20% harder or whatever, right? These affixes have a chance to spawn, things like that. They didn't really like tell us that. Might be a good idea to do strongholds and expert penitent in that case. If they do, like, I feel like if we're doing enough damage and blasting through and it's no problem, then doing it at a high difficulty where you're fighting 8 to 10 elites per stronghold, depending on where you're at, and you're always close enough to your teammates and getting their experience because it's just the right amount of screens away. Like, I feel like we should always be getting the max amount of experience, especially that 10% from being in a party and all that jazz, right? But also, you're getting enough from these, especially with those XP bonuses and everything going on. I feel like 22.5 levels, if it holds true to the 1.25, that you should be able to start it at 38, even 40, 42, and walk away at level 60 doing all of that. So when we accounted for all of the experience changes in our spreadsheet, I'm going to try and make that available to everybody. So I'll include links and stuff, but that it's nice to know where the experience lies and that it didn't get nerfed super hard. It still got nerfed, but it's not so nerfed that it's not even viable. Like I was like, are we even going to get a level per stronghold now? So I think that that's really good to know. So yeah. Moving on. I'll be quiet again.
I mean, that's really nice too, because, you know, theoretically you could enter the pit and not actually have a glyph, but now you will. So yes. You can find one and level up if that's.
And I totally forgot to mention this as well. The fact that we're getting reduced clutter, magic and what is it? Common items are getting deleted, and technically rare items. So all 3 of those tiers, they're just getting auto salvaged after you get to torment difficulties. Beautiful. Still want a loot filter, but honestly, great direction, less clutter. I mean, once you start getting into the higher torments and stuff, there's already less loot dropping, but it's more impactful when that loot hits the ground, and it is good, right? So I like the direction they're moving in. It feels D2-esque, but in the sense that, like, you're not seeing a billion potions on the ground or scrolls of identify or whatever, right? So you're just seeing items that could potentially be important to what you're looking for. And the Paragon glyphs dropping from the pit, it confused the hell out of me when they were like, hey, you got to run this content that drops glyphs, and you could get glyphs from Nightmare Dungeons as you leveled up and got them to level up during the dungeon. And then they moved it to the pit, and they were like, hey, so you got to get your glyphs somewhere else because they don't drop in there. And it's like, what? I think they dropped off of the boss, but that could have been a like glitch or something. I get annoying blues when I need to. So they did fix that during the PTR. During the PTR, the bosses only dropped uniques. I do hope that they may still drop legendaries, or at least have a chance to drop a greater affixed legendary. But I'm okay with them just dropping uniques if that means that our target farm is more empowered, right? So I'm okay with the change they made. It's definitely trying to pull away from that dopamine rush of watching a million items hit the ground. And now it's a little bit more tempered. There's like 5 items that hit the ground in Torment 4. So unless they boosted the drop rates of like the difficulty, so you get 2 items in Torment 1 instead of just 1 or whatever across the board, we'll see how they kind of adjusted those drops. But as it is right now, I think that the drop rates are okay. Well, they needed to adjust the drop rate for like unique items going, but like you were able to find items to get your build going. They just weren't ancestral. So the ancestral being boosted by like triple to get stuff to fall better, that is definitely good. So we'll see how it all kind of feels, but I think they're going in a very good direction. So again, just wanted to touch on those. Totally forgot to hit those, but let's move on.
What happens?
Awesome, and I know last but not least we have kind of itemization and craft. This is some big stuff here that I know will excite players for sure.
Yeah, so one of the things we've heard a ton from the player base and you all is that I wish I could make a mythic unique deterministically. If I do everything in a season, if I kill Uber Lilith, if I do the season's journey, I want to be able to get a mythic unique. And we saw this as an opportunity to essentially create an identity between the rune crafting of mythic uniques and the blacksmith. We moved it from the alchemist to the blacksmith version of crafting mythic uniques. So now what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to take 2 resplendent sparks to the blacksmith and get a random mythic unique. That means no matter what, as long as you do everything in the season, you're going to get a mythic unique. And if you take those resplendent sparks and you decide, I really want a specific mythic unique, you'll be able to take a set of runes and actually pick which one.
Right.
And what that does is the runes are a lot more flexible. They can be traded. You can also get some incremental progress, right? Because they drop a lot more frequently than mythic unique or sparks in general. So what this means is you now have 2 really clear means to sort of target mythic uniques, and you now have a guaranteed way to make a mythic unique at the end of a season, which we think will feel really good.
Something that's kind of cool about that is that it gives runes this like intrinsic trade value, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
Like they have this big purpose towards crafting one of the best items in the game, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I finally can get my Starless Skies.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the next one here is you're going to be getting a lot of salvage in Torment, because everything's getting auto-salvaged. So we figured, you know what, we should probably give you some purpose and value to that salvage. And now you can take it to the blacksmith and forge random legendary equipment at the blacksmith.
Yeah, this is huge.
I love this change.
And it also has a chance to be unique or mythic and sometimes ancestral. So it's definitely a great place to dump all that salvage, excess salvage that you have. And then the next one here is more just sort of a quality of life and nicety. We added runes, and we're putting way more sockets on gear.
Yeah.
We just allowed you to add sockets to gear with just the general salvage material. You don't need scattered prisms anymore. Scattered prisms are required for ancestral items, and that just essentially means, I'm missing a socket. You can easily add one. And then the next one here is mostly quality of life for alt characters, but the jeweler no longer has a level requirement to engage with the jeweler. Previously on the PTR, you had to trade gear to your main character, add a socket. It was super tedious, and we just made it not like that.
Awesome. So tons of big changes coming across a multitude of systems within D4, thanks to a lot of great feedback that we got from all the players within the community, content creators, etc. So thank you guys so much for that. Thank you, Colin, for walking us through that. Next up, we want to talk about some of the class changes and everything. And so Charles here is going to walk us through it.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about some of the class changes that we saw in the PTR. Once again, I wanted to thank all of the players who gave a lot of detailed feedback, a lot of data on how classes were performing, all the different builds and the new items, new effects, and all that kind of stuff, new skills. It's been really helpful in helping to make sure that we make all our class designs as fun and engaging as possible. I do want to say that this patch is huge. There's lots of changes. As I said, a lot of new class stuff, but a lot of new system stuff across the whole game. And so we do expect some level of volatility here. And when a lot of things change, there's a lot of unknowns. And so that's just the mindset we're approaching this patch with. And what I'm going to be talking about here is not a complete detailed list of everything that we've changed from the PTR to live. It's just kind of some samples and kind of talking through our learnings and what we saw on the class design team and what we're thinking about. And so make sure you check out the full patch notes once we're done with the stream. And also, if you, a lot of the changes came in the PTR initially, so definitely check out those if you're unfamiliar, because there's tons of class changes there as well.
Oh yeah.
So starting with the Barbarian, we generally saw that Barbarian class was a little bit too weak on the PTR, and I think even on Season 5, I think it's just generally considered a little too weak. Historically, though, it's been one of our stronger classes, but you know, in recent seasons, it's fallen a little bit on harder times. So a lot of our focus here is buffs to some underutilized skills and legendaries and uniques. So we've got updates to Upheaval to make it just a little bit more punchy, hits a little bit harder. We've got updates to some of the uniques that talk to other core skills, like Hammer of the Ancients and Double Swing, to give them a little bit more damage boost as well. And finally, there's a buff to the Martial Vigor passive. That is a passive in the skill tree that gives you some damage reduction from elite enemies, including bosses. And it might seem pretty small on paper, it's just 4% to 6%, but for every skill rank you have in that, you get that much more. And really, when you're fighting the late game tormented bosses and high torment tiers, it's going to be a pretty noticeable amount of survivability against those boss fights for barbarians.
Yeah, those passive skills add up really quickly when you start getting a bunch of ranks in them and stuff, so for sure.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Druid, we also think the Druid was a little bit on the weaker end of the classes. I think there was a few bugs on the PTR that we're addressing as we go live, where some of their effects, specifically in the Paragon, and some of the key passives weren't quite working exactly how we intended. So they might have been a little bit weaker due to that on the PTR specifically. So we're definitely addressing those. I also wanted to talk about Nature's Fury. This is a key passive that whenever you cast an Earth or Storm skill, there's a chance to cast the same skill to cast a skill of the opposite type. And this was causing some unintended interactions with one of the unique items, the Earthbreaker ring, that ended up proccing or triggering Nature's Fury way more often than we intended. That's because we have this concept of casts, where you actually need to press the button and then, hey, you did one cast. And whenever we do something like auto casts, which is like, hey, I triggered a free skill with Nature's Fury, that shouldn't kind of recursively trigger or trigger the other effects that are looking for casts. But in that particular interaction it was, and so we've fixed that interaction, but then thrown some pretty big buffs to those items and the things affected in that build. We still expect those kind of things, especially landslide builds that use this a lot, to still be very powerful builds going forward. But we just didn't want that one particular unintended interaction to be you
And that kind of overshines, all the builds, right? When you have like one build that's, crazy over, the top. So
exactly, yeah. Especially whenever there's one build that's so dominant, it really makes it feel like, hey, I'm playing the class wrong if I'm not doing this, and that's not something that we want. We want you to be able to play all the different ways of playing the classes and feel like it's a valid and viable choice to compete or to complete the game. Some of the other changes on Druid as well, we've got some updates to Great Staff of the Crone. This is one of my favorite items that lets your Claw and Storm Strike build kind of synergize really nicely. We've got just a lot more damage on Werewolf skills through the Lust for Carnage Paragon node, basically the same functionality, but just added 50% bonus damage there. We saw Werewolf was particularly falling behind. And an update to the Untamed Legendary Paragon node. This is the new one that talks to companion skills. Previously, it just gave skill ranks, which kind of fell off as you got a lot of skill ranks. Now it's just multiplicative damage, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some companion druids in the new season, especially with the new key passive. All right, moving on to the Necromancer. So the Necromancer is a class that I think we saw a lot of variety for like blood, bone, and shadow builds. A lot of those were competing very well, but a Necromancer is really all about minions, right? And unfortunately, we saw minion builds really falling behind from where we want. And we know that minion builds are like the most appealing part of a Necromancer. And so on the class design team, we're really committed to making sure that minion Necromancer is good. And we're going to see some massive buffs to this patch, and we're going to continue monitoring to make sure that the minion fantasy is really a powerful and compelling one. We also saw that Necromancer was one of the squishier classes. It had a little bit less defensive oomph than we really wanted. And so we've made some updates here to Reap. It's going to give a little bit longer damage reduction, just makes that a little bit more usable for that function. Same with Necrotic Fortitude, gives a little bit more barrier. This is kind of a passive barrier generation, so just a little bit more survivability in that late game. And then the rest of it here is just talking about minion buffs, right? We've got Kalen's Edict, the key passive. This is going to, previously it just gave you attack speed for your minions. Now it's also going to give you bonus multiplicative damage for all your minions. A bunch of the legendaries and uniques that talked to minions, like Ring of Mendeln and Shade Mist, that damage is now properly attributed to your minions rather than the Necromancer themselves, which means if you have bonus Golem damage, for instance, and your Golem triggers Ring of Mendeln, it's now going to benefit properly, and it's going to be multiplied up by those multipliers. So pretty big buffs for those legendaries and uniques.
Yeah, that's a lot of power for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Moving on, we've got next class, we'll talk about the Rogue. I think the Rogue in general was performing pretty well across the board in the PTR. I think we got a lot of positive feedback, like, hey, yeah, Rogue feels great. Like, just,
spin to win.
Yes, spin to win. The Dance of Knives skill in particular.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I was really happy with where Dance of Knives landed as the new skill. It found a lot of use in a variety of builds, and people have a lot of fun playing with it. We did notice a little bit of the melee-focused builds with Flurry and Twisting Blades falling behind just a little bit. So a few of our changes here are focused on enhancing the legendaries that talk to those two, Encircling Blades and Blade Dancers. In terms of key passives, we saw Victimize did have a bug that caused its damage scaling to be higher than intended. And so we have fixed that math calculation on how it kind of scales damage based on other damage. Because it was really just a little bit too dominant. And now we think with this update, it'll still be a competitive choice, but it won't completely outshine every other key passive on the Rogue. And some nice little buffs here to Rain of Arrows, just to make it work a little bit better with imbuement skills. Love me some Rain of Arrows. It's a very flashy skill, especially with all those colors with the imbuments on it. All right, and finally, the Sorcerer. The Sorcerer was definitely the strongest class I think we saw on the PTR by a fair margin.
Just a little bit,
It was quite strong. People were having a lot of fun with Sorcerer builds, especially with the new key passive Enlightenment. And Enlightenment had an issue where it's all about alternating skill casts. So, okay, you cast a fire skill, you cast a lightning skill, you cast a cold skill, and you get these stacks really quickly. Unfortunately, it was stacking up unintentionally from some of those auto casts that we were talking about earlier with Nature's Fury, where when you trigger bonus casts from like Unstable Currents, it was actually ramping up the Enlightenment way too fast. And so we fixed that interaction, but we think despite that, Enlightenment is still one of the strongest key passives to sort. Yeah. So it just brings it down a little bit, but we still think this is going to be a really powerful and compelling new key passive to play with once we go live. Two other changes here with the Flame Scar and Oculus uniques. This is kind of adding in this chance to deal double damage affixes for Incinerate and Teleport respectively. This harkens back to what I talked about on the PTR stream, where we're adding these multiplicative damage bonuses into tempering for weapons. And of course, we can't temper onto unique items, but for a lot of the unique items that are about very specific skills, such as Flame Scar and Oculus, we've taken a pass to add in some of these affixes that enhance those skills in multiplicative ways to really make sure that Incinerate gets the same benefit from using that unique as opposed to just a legendary that you would temper this affix onto anyway.
It's a massive buff.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely massive.
Size is like, I had to pull out a ruler. Like, is it actually?
Is it working?
Yeah. Incinerate size and Teleport size maybe not the most compelling affix. Now you just get some of this multiplicative damage. If somebody wants to make an Oculus build where most of the damage comes from Teleport, that's going to be awesome. We'll see if you can manage to make that work.
Yeah, I love that idea. Oh my god.
I already have a build page saved.
Ooh,
yeah.
I have to see that. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, once again, I just wanted to thank everyone for all the great feedback. We on the class design team in particular are always reading and listening to feedback on how you're playing the classes, what builds you're finding fun, what things are over or underpowered. We listen to it, we read your feedback, we watch the videos that you make. We really appreciate all of it, and it really helps us to make the game as best as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles, for walking us through all the changes coming for class design. It's actually not all the changes that we saw right here. As Charles mentioned, we do have patch notes actually going live after this stream. And I will caveat, you will see 2.0.1 patch notes, and you'll see 2.0.2 patch notes. So there's 202 and 201. 202 is actually not on like people's PCs yet. You haven't preloaded that. That is going to be the last update you'll need to grab before we jump into launch for Vessel of Hatred. But you will get all the patch notes after the stream, so you can dig through all the class changes that we didn't cover and all the ins and outs of it between now and what we had for PTR. So last but not least, we have rune words. So I think we're going to jump straight into it. So Anthony, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, awesome feedback. We got lots of different things that came in, and we've heard multiple times a couple different things with the rune words that really just people kept repeating over and over again, really mostly stemming down to two major issues with the whole system. And so previously we had on the PTR, we had the legendary runes that were a lot stronger, you know, because you want to reach that point eventually to where you get the powerful runes and then you play the game that way. Well, that was kind of outshining a lot of the other possibilities and like the idea that we had with the runes where you're mixing and matching, creating different combinations. So what we are ending up doing now is we are taking that top end and we're going to bring it down. And then on the flip side, the second thing that we heard a lot of is those bottom runes, I don't want to say bottom runes, the magic and rare runes that you find a little earlier, especially those runes of ritual, where those are the ones where you're actually like doing things to gain offering to then invoke those runes of invocation, those powers that you have. Those were intentionally a bit lower so that you have some progress, but it felt like when you get them, it wasn't enough. You didn't get to really feel those runes happen and pop off when you get them. So on the other side, we are taking that bottom end and bringing it up. So together, we're kind of, I don't want to say flattening out, but we are making it a lot more options for the players to really have choices throughout your whole journey rather than just a linear, get the stronger one, and then obviously it's stronger. And what this will also do, and the focus on this, is to also make those utility runes really, really potent and really pop off, and a lot more visual things to happen. And then finally, we removed a couple runes that weren't quite meeting our expectations. We have this thing that we say every once in a while, which is like condense the fun, and we want to make that like the ideal situation where we have the runes that we have are the ones that are cool and fun, and not like over bloated with just a bunch of things that don't always like meet those expectations.
Yeah, so we want you to have lots of options, and we don't want individual runes or effects to really overshadow everything else. But that does mean that we want to make sure that all the options are really compelling. And so ones that aren't meeting our bar, we just would rather take them out rather than leave them in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're always going to be adding to the rune system.
Of course.
Right? So we want to leave ourselves the space. We didn't want to water down the pool with things like the lightning bolt effect rune. It's like that didn't really have, it was an evolutionary dead ends. We didn't necessarily have any way to juice that up. So we want when a rune drops for it to feel like, oh, there's this new toy I can play with, right?
It's important that every choice in the rune system is meaningful. Like every possible rune you can take or combination, like there's something there, right?
Yeah, you want to feel it for sure, and it doesn't want to be something that you just like, oh, I got this rune, and it's like, well, let me find another one. So, all right, so here's some examples of some of the big outliers. We heard lots of feedback around these two, especially that Warcry rune. So while it was giving berserking to everyone, it was a big power bonus. And so we're going to bring that down a little bit by it's no longer going to give that enhanced version. It's just the baseline version, so it no longer gives berserking to all players. That does mean it still works for barbarians because that is their skill. They should still be able to gain that power as they would expect. And then down with the Yam, which is that Druid Petrify. The rune itself is not changing. What's actually changing is on Druids themselves, their ultimate there is no longer going to give that critical bonus baseline. It's now going to be the enhanced version. So if you want that as a druid, you can still get that big, powerful critical damage bonus. But now that baseline is going to be that big stun, that big AoE moment that you see everything on the screen freeze, and also just juice you up with a bunch of resource. And this is general like class resource. So unlike what it'll say for the druid is it says their spirit goes up, on the rune, it says it is your resource, so everyone gets this huge, big moment where you can kind of reset. So
if I'm a sorcerer, it doesn't generate spirit; it generates mana.
Yes,
It'll give you
Right.
yeah.
you don't just get a second bubble that then fills up with
Suddenly
spirit.
you're a druid.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Yeah.
I like that this puts a lot more emphasis on the utility of runes, which is sort of what we had been originally intending, right? Not every choice is going to be a multiplicative damage source. So you should have a lot more options. It's more focused on utility
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
stealing other classes' power.
Yeah, obviously multiplicative damage is probably the single strongest thing you can do in an ARPG. And just when we noticed these ones were really those ones that are overshadowing every other option, we still think those will find a great niche for the builds that want it, but they won't be the only choice that no one else can use anything else for.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so here's some examples. Again, I want to preface, this is not all of them. There are a bunch of changes. You guys will see them in the patch notes as we had already talked about. But some of the big ones that I wanted to show off here. So Spiritborn Vortex, that's the one that pulls everyone in, you group everything together. That is going to be almost, you're going to be able to get that off almost twice as often as it was before. So you're combine that in with something that, you know, has some grindy damage in the middle, and you're going to be just having this pop off all the time. As well as, so we call them sub-powers. Those are things like the Sorcerer Meteorites, or like the Barbarian Earthquakes. Those things that happen based on other things, but they create like another power that comes out. We are juicing those up a lot more. So these should be some of the most powerful versions of these sub-powers in the game from these runes. And as you can see here, Meteorites is jumping up a whole bunch, as well as the offering cost is going down, so you're going to be able to summon a lot more of these as well. And then one of the other things I saw feedback was around the Se rune. I don't know exactly how to say it myself. I'll have to ask Yevon about that after this. But where you summon spirit wolves, and they didn't feel as impactful because their AI was not as poppy as, like, say, the Necromancer's minions running around a lot more quickly. So we adjusted that, and so we're gonna have a video coming up here in a second, and we can see. So now you're gonna summon those wolves. They're gonna pop up and do their attack. And if you jump to the next pack, they're gonna jump forward. Except this is gonna happen a lot more frequently than before. So now if you, say, fight that pack, jump to the next one, every time those wolves are going to just keep jumping and keep leaping. And this works in ranged as well. So if you're fighting some enemy over here to the left, and you fight, you attack them, your wolves are going to jump immediately over there. And then if you switch to this other group on the right, those wolves are going to jump across the screen, because we've also increased that aggro range as well for that.
Yeah, they feel a lot more responsive, and like, even in that clip, we saw them jump into the pack at basically the same time we did, right?
Yeah.
They are right there with you. They're not lagging behind, and
Right.
and that's always like the worst feeling when, like, hey, some of this thing, where are they? What are they
It's
doing?
like they're
lagging
there,
behind.
a mile away.
They're no longer lazy dogs. They're,
Yeah, they were tired. They were tired.
Tired little pups, you know? And then here's some examples of those runes of ritual. Again, those are the ones that are generating this offering. And so these are mostly going to be changes to those magic and rare runes, where we've taken that offering they give and we've really knocked it up to be a lot closer to where those legendary versions of these are. And that should hopefully give us a lot more options when it comes to deciding which combination of which runes that we are using. So
It also just means things are a lot more reliable. Like, you're actually getting procs way more often with these buffs.
Yeah, you actually get to see the fun happen, right? See those effects happen a little bit more often.
Yeah, so tons of rune changes that are coming. And as Anthony mentioned, there's way more details in the actual patch notes themselves, so people can check that out after the stream, along with all the class changes, the system changes, the progression changes. It's all detailed out there for players specifically.
You know, I had one thing, because I think we might have forgotten it, and, you know, I'm very concerned about monitor violence.
Oh, yes.
We heard a lot of people wanted to punch their monitors.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
When you get a greater affix on impairment resistance. So,
Oh, yeah.
as
yes.
monitor enthusiasts, we've just removed that from the affix pool.
Yes.
So please
Yep.
don't.
Please
get mad at the
don't.
monitor.
Less
They're
punching.
innocent.
Less punching of monitors.
Save the monitors,
They're
please.
innocent.
And one thing I do want to call out on RuneWords, we actually, funny enough, we got a lot of feedback about players saying like, hey, we noticed like different art on some of the classic runes that they may have seen from like back in D2. That art has been updated to match what you saw in D2. So
Harkens back.
yes, yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, shout out to the history of runes there for everyone. So thank you guys for jumping into this. And I will say, like, this team is going to be staying vigilant through the launch of Vessel of Hatred with our live ops teams here. Shout out to our live ops team who will be helping us out through multitudes of patches, hot fixes. We're going to be paying attention to the community and hearing all the feedback that players have, and we'll be jumping on a lot of the big things that we do notice and we do want to jump like kind of address earlier on, especially right after launch. So our cadence is going to be quick. So do expect that. We'll be posting all notes, all hotfix notes, etc. Whenever they do come up. So thank you guys again for joining us today to talk about the PTR learnings. Next up, we actually are going to start talking about the next season coming to Diablo 4, which is Season 6, and that will actually start with the launch of Vessel of Hatred. We're going to do another quick mic swap, musical chairs thing. Maybe we turn on dancing demons and everything like that, and see our release date map. But we're back here to talk about Season 6. This is the new season coming with the launch of Vessel of Hatred, and I'm joined by this wonderful group here. Brent, who we already know, our game director here, but Tim, Don, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name is Tim Ismay. I am one of the lead producers on Diablo 4. I mostly work on seasons.
I'm Don Adams. I'm the lead season designer for Season 6, the Season of Hatred Rising.
Also known as content supervisor.
Also known as content supervisor.
There you go.
From time to time.
There we go. Awesome. So, as Don just mentioned here, Season 6 is Season of Hatred Rising. Tim, do you want to explain to us what Hatred Rising, or Brent?
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we started off with this, we really knew we wanted to make sure that we were launching a brand new season right alongside a Vessel of Hatred. We wanted that to be day and date. So like continuity was really important to us. And so the idea that the hatred of Mephisto and Nahantu is spilling out into the rest of Sanctuary was kind of the anchor that we were holding on to, and we started talking about what that would mean to make a whole season around that.
Awesome. And I know with kind of like what players hearing Hatred Rising, they're hearing about, you know, Mephisto and his hatred potentially leaking out into Nahantu, maybe the rest of Sanctuary. Like, what can players expect with this actual season?
Yeah, so a lot of actually what is going to be the core of Season 6 and the Season 6 experience, players have already gotten exposed to. So anybody who's playing on the PTR has been reading about the changes we put up there. Fundamental to the release of Vessel of Hatred, Season 6 brings big changes where every single class is going to gain access to new skill points. They're going to gain new skills across all the classes. They're going to gain more Paragon points, new legendary Paragon glyphs. These are all changes that are being added to the base of the game, meaning you do not need to have Vessel of Hatred to gain access to these. You also will still have access to these after Season 6. These are permanent changes to the game. On top of that, we got the standard new legendary aspects. We have new unique items and new mythic items, crazy powerful mythic items that are going to unlock just new levels of power that were not possible before in the game. Now, to go along with this power, we will be adding these new difficulty levels that, again, we saw on PTR. So you have the ability to challenge these new levels of power. I want to say that it's all going to even out well. Honestly, despite the tireless efforts of our designers, just constant trying to get that balance just right based on all the feedback that comes in, I know that maybe it'll be out for a day before someone's posting a video and saying, oh, look at this, I do 1 trillion damage. And it'll go all over the internet, like, I've never seen numbers this big. And that's, yeah. But we tried to get it there. You're going to see crazy builds. Those are going to link into new difficulties that were never there before to try and all this new content.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know all these things that players got to experience a little bit in PTR. They got to see it. They got to check it out early. But of course, there is more kind of associated with this specific season. So, Don, do you want to talk a little bit more about what players can also see beyond what Tim kind of walked through?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we mentioned, this is the season of hatred rising. So we really wanted to theme it around Mephisto's hatred creeping out of Nahantu and into the rest of the world. So let's go ahead and take a look at our visual aid here.
Beautiful.
Now, I was promised
official documents.
I was promised that this would be turned into real art when I sent this over. I didn't think we'd be showing this, but. Hopefully this will all make sense by the end of the presentation. Just for now, just take it in.
There you go. Everyone loves designer art. It's core to all our live streams that we do. Art by Don Adams here. So
yeah, and frankly, I think it speaks for itself. I don't really know that there's much more to say. But let's go on and go ahead to the next slide here, and let's take a look at some real art to get you ready for the season here. This is, of course, amazing key art from Dave Raposa. I just love kicking that demon in the face. That's makes me happy every time I see it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, and I'll get into some actual details about how this stuff shows up in the world, what you're going to be looking for when you're hunting these guys down. So you're going to see these hatred rising zone events that cycle frequently throughout the world. When these are up, everything in that area is going to be corrupted by hatred. You're going to be seeing environmental changes, lighting changes. The monsters will actually have, kind of hatred gummy goop on them. You can be ambushed from portals randomly. And really all this is just setting the stage for the Realm Walker. So you'll have a separate event icon that'll let you know when the Realm Walker is going to be up. It's a world event, so it'll be in that list on the map with other like world bosses and Legion events and stuff. And we have some video here to kind of show you what it looks like. Actually, I think we have another slide about the Realm Walker first, sorry. Yeah, so this is what he looks like in game. He's awesome. These are just big, hulking kind of monstrosities stomping around, just spreading Mephisto's hatred. They summon in monsters from a plane of hell through this portal on their back. And a lot of the monsters they summon, most of them are actually new monsters from Vessel of Hatred. They're the Hollows family, which are super cool and gross. So I think now we can take a look at what it actually looks like in game. So here's some players waiting for him to spawn. He starts burrowed like that, and you can kind of click the portal to summon some stuff to fight while you're getting warmed up here. I just love these enemies. I think they're so cool, the Hollows. So he busts out of the ground, and this is actually, we want to do something new with this event. And lean into the fantasy of this giant thing just like stomping around. So it's actually a walking world event. He has several different paths he can take throughout each area. He walks through the zone, and as he walks, he just leaves this, chaos behind him in his wake. He's summoning tons of hollows, and if you get in front of him, he just punts you out of the way and keeps going. You actually can't even damage him directly in this phase, but if you kill enough of the adds that he's spawning, it'll create these bloodbound guardians. Killing these will shave some of the HP off of the Realm Walker. So when he reaches the end of his path and you can actually fight him, you'll have less HP to burn through. So this is a nice way to incentivize actually participating, sticking around for all this chaos. Obviously lots of XP and whatnot from the mobs as well. So this is the event that he kicks off when he actually gets to his destination. When you interrupt this ritual by destroying all of these destructible hatred spires, that's when you'll actually be able to fight him directly. And I think we're going to see that here very quickly. This is a really cool encounter. There's just lots of, he has a big smashy attacks. He sprays a lot of damage everywhere. Okay, so and when he dies, that weird portal on his back drops down and stays open. And there's only really one thing to do with a weird portal.
Yeah, you go in the portal. That's your option. So
that's what portals are made for.
Successfully killing the Realm Walker, taking down this massive demon, finally grants you your reward of more demons. So you're going to go into the Seething Realm. This is part of the Mephisto's area of hell. So you are going to have to continue fighting in here. It is not a barren landscape, but the demons you fight in here comparatively, if you were strong enough to take down a Realm Walker, don't be too worried. I think you're going to be able to manage the demons inside of the Seething Realm as well. This dungeon is a little bit more of a reward dungeon. So once you get in here, you're fighting your way through to get specific buffs at the end of it. So if we want, we can jump into the video here. Yeah, this is the first section. And this part, you're just kind of mowing through some of these smaller guys. You're really just looking for a specific gate here. There's a portal that you're going to be activating and making an important choice there about which section of the Seething Realm you go into. Here it is. This is the gate here. So you're going to click on this. You now have options. Based on a few consumables that you can put in, you can go into sections that are more focused on equipment bonus, a gold bonus. You can get a socketable bonus. You can get more endgame items with like compasses and boss materials. So you're going to pick one of these and decide that's the section I want to go into. You're going to get some drops similar to that in this section of the dungeon. But more importantly, this is going to set you up for the type of buff you want to get at the end of the dungeon. So again, this is not an empty area. You are going to have to fight through it. You're going to encounter more hollows in here, some more elites, all of this leading up to a chest at the end. Here's your reward. So finally, you just click on this, you get your reward. Just kidding. Yeah, of course it's a cursed event.
Of course.
You're going to have to fight even more demons. Nothing's free in hell. This is just how you got to do it. So you fight your way through some more elites. But don't worry, I believe in you. You can get through this. If you kill the last guy, there's one more there. Take him down. Come on, you can get it. All right, so he goes down. Now you get your prizes. You're going to open these chests. There's a variety of loot that you get, but one specific item that you're looking for in here, which is going to be a Seething Opal. So these little, there they are, yeah, little Seething Opals. They got a little seasonal marker on them. This is special to Season 6. When you get these, you're going to take a look here. This is going to be a buff you get based on the one that you chose. There are some fundamentals you always get. So a Seething Opal always gives you a 15% bonus to experience. This is especially cool because it stacks with elixirs. You can have an elixir and a Seething Opal active at the same time. That's a huge bonus. On top of that, any Seething Opal that you use is going to allow you to now get reputation with the remnants of the Zakarum. Don will talk about that more in just a second, but that's going to be the reputation track for Season 6. And then beyond that, you will get a bonus depending on which portal you went through, which section of the Seething Realm you decided to go into. Here we go. Yeah, if you want to snapshot this, anybody who's screenshotting, these are some of the bonuses you can get. As you can see on here, you're getting maybe more items, maybe more gold, more socketables. So these bonuses are going to occur while fighting anything while having this buff active. So equipment, as an example, maybe I wanted more items to be dropping. When you kill monsters, there's a chance that they're going to drop a cache that is going to give you some additional loot. And if you're playing content in, let's say, further in the end game, that monsters don't traditionally drop loot, not to worry, we've adjusted that as well. If you play through the pit, as an example, we have added an additional drop at the end of the pit, again, that procs based on which Seething Opal that you chose. There are a couple up here at the end. The socketable one I should mention, that one is special to, you do have to have Vessel of Hatred for that one. This one is more for people that are trying to get more runes. So, obviously you need to have Vessel of Hatred to get runes, so that's what's going to make this valuable to you.
But it's cool to also see like boss summoning items on here. Infernal compasses as well. Infernal compasses themselves are going to be very valuable because it's as Colin was mentioning before. We saw what you can end up getting in infernal hordes and everything like that. It's just another opportunity to get more compasses for getting in there.
Yeah, Seething Opal of Torment, I think is great.
I think that grape-flavored opal is going to be very popular.
the grape one is going to be pretty popular. And a question I just quickly saw, because you mentioned stacking with elixirs, does it also stack with incense?
Yeah, it will stack with incense.
There you go. So that's a triple stack of XP right there, which is actually really cool. Yeah. So that's awesome. So obviously, we're seeing the rewards here, and one thing that you had mentioned, which was the Zakarum remnants. Don, can you talk to us a little bit about kind of what that progression track is going to be?
Yeah, sure. So These are the Zakarum remnants. You've probably seen these guys in Hawazar. These are the Crusaders with the rusty armor that have just been kind of bumming around since they failed to find Akarat's tomb. They have a very personal connection with Mephisto. He of course destroyed basically the Zakarum order many years ago, and at this time they're still just not really ready to stand up and fight this at full force. Right? They've been dealing with cultists, and they're just not at their full strength. So. You'll meet this Crusader right at the start of the season who will give you a very simple intro quest, basically, to guide you to kill a Realm Walker, clear a Seething Realm, and he'll be your point of contact for reputation rewards following that. So, basically, we built this in a way that, with the opals giving rep for all sorts of different activities, the idea is that you can, go and kind of do whatever you want to do, as long as you're checking in periodically with the Realm Walker and keeping a stack of these opals on hand. It's very open-ended how you want to push this reputation track.
Yeah, it is always nice to see that anywhere that new demons occur in the world, there is always some faction out there that's trying to take care of them and would appreciate your help. So the Zakarum here, they've had a rough go of it, but if you can help them out, I think that we can handle this problem.
They're not at their best right now.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about the way we've looked at this whole package is that not only have we done a bunch of diligence in making sure that the story is taking part in all of Sanctuary. We're touching on some really cool lore stuff that has existed for a long period of time. But we're also leaning into a theme of giving the players more control over the experience. And so whether it's the choice of reward or being able to stack these rewards to get specific outcomes, you're going to see that not only in the season, so everybody's going to get access to this in the season, but we have that theme also creeping into some of the stuff you'll see with the Vessel of Hatred content in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully the hieroglyphs that we saw at the beginning, the designer, hopefully this makes sense now, right?
Yeah.
So you kill the Realm Walker to get the portal, you do the portal to get the opals, and then you go do, the MS Paint sort of shapes of all the other activities that are in the game. You can also just chain run the Realm Walker if you'd like as well. He's up very often, and I expect people will kind of, go back and forth on how often they're interacting with them. You might want to stack a bunch of opals for the weekend or something, right?
If you hate Realm Walkers and you're like, I just want to kill Realm Walkers all day, you can. But what I love about the season is exactly that. You can get the opal. It's a great buff, and now go play other content, including the new content that's coming out in Vessel of Hatred. If you bought the expansion, got a lot of options there, so you don't have to just play the seasonal content. You can go play this other stuff while still having the buff.
Including the Vessel of Hatred campaign, which is kind of a first, right? You'll need to have completed the base campaign, but you can play the Vessel of Hatred campaign alongside the Season 6 content, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so huge for people that, have base game or Vessel of Hatred can partake in the content for this season. Don, Tim, thank you guys for walking us through all the Season of Hatred Rising content that's coming with the launch of Vessel of Hatred. This is starting right at the beginning, right when Vessel of Hatred actually comes out, which is on, again, October 7th at 4 p.m. Pacific.
For some people.
for 4 p.m. Pacific time, which is for everyone because it is one global release. So, so
it'll be the 7th for me.
Yeah. 7th for us here in California, but for other people, if you follow time zones, that's what it'll end up being. So we'll see Tim more during our Q&A at the end, but we are actually going to jump into some of the Vessel of Hatred features next. We're going to do another musical chair, as Benny
let this play for a second because I want to touch on a couple of things that I realized as we were going through. So y'all watched me rewind the video there for a second, and it was because I was intrigued with the time process. It took them from the start of the event, clicking on the portal and pissing off the Realm Walker. It took from the beginning to the end of killing it and spawning the portal where he drops down onto the ground, the portal stair. It took about 5 minutes for them to get there, for the guy to walk to wherever he was going. I don't know if it's a set, he has to get to the end of where he's going, but that takes 5 minutes. Now, depending on how quickly you can clear the dungeon content in between, especially the cursed chest at the end, there wasn't a timer that I had realized that was there, so that event's probably a minute long, we'll say. So I said in total, I put a little note about it, it's probably about a 10-minute runtime for this event, which means you only have about a 5-minute window before the next Realm Walker is available. Now the first one every hour, and we've seen this in the I'll point it out in a little bit, but every hour the first realm walker that you fight, so at the top of the hour, so if you kill one realm walker in the last 15 minutes of the hour and the next realm walker at the next 15 minutes of the hour, then you'll get your tree whispers. It's just that one might not have been the first one that they had fought, or it wasn't a tree whisper one. It wasn't a regular one. It was just the fact that it was probably one after the fact that they had already killed one. So it made it to where you were only seeing the non-whispered version of it. So hopefully it does pop up something that signifies that. But there was a note that said that the top of the hour, every realm walker after the hour will be a tree whisper. Not everyone, but so after the top of the hour, so it hits 2 minutes in, after that hour resets, whatever realm walker you get in the 4 that spawn within the hour, one of them will be a tree whisper. Now, we don't know if the 2 that may coincidentally spawn, the one that will spawn every 3 hours in Nahantu, as well as the ones that are always spawning in just the totality of Sanctuary, whether it be Hawazar, Kedbardu, wherever. We don't know if you do one tree whisper at the top of the hour for that one, if Nahantus will still retain a tree whisper, or if it will go away because you chose to do one realm walker. We'll see. If you can double dip on that, that might be worth it. We'll see. Who knows, right? But as it stands right now, well, realm walkers look like they're at about a 10-minute duration run, especially depending on if you're like, all right, what resource do I want to spend? Boom, I'm going to go here. I'm going to do this. Booyah. So as it stands, it did look like the density was quite decent in the realm walkers themselves. So taking the time to do them might not be as much of a handicap as we think it will be, especially because you do seem to get a fair amount of loot from it, legendaries. There's apparently a new goblin inside of it, so that's something to look at as well. That's something that really dragged my attention, was a new goblin that we're gonna get, so that makes me happy. One thing that I always loved about Diablo 3 was the different kind of goblins, so I can only imagine what they're gonna do. I kind of hope it's a boss mat goblin that just explodes in boss mats, or even maybe a guaranteed greater affix goblin as you go up in different difficulties or something. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to see new goblin types. And I do hope that as the game continues, we do get more goblin types as they go. I'd love to see the God, what was it? Gelatinous, I believe. It was the blue one that split into mini baby treasure goblins. They just kept splitting and splitting down until they all blew up in fucking explosions of treasure and loot and stuff. So I do hope we kind of get something like that, because I'd really like the different goblins that we encountered. So rainbow wing gob, yeah. Or even like give us an obol goblin, or give us again boss mat goblins. Like, they have different goblins they could definitely do. Crafting materials goblins, give us the odious ones back, like something. I personally enjoy the different thematic goblin types, so I'm excited for what we're gonna see here. But yeah, so realm walkers, big point. One other thing that I really wanted to nail on the head is that the information that they gave us at the beginning of that, they said that everybody, no matter if you got the expansion or not, you are getting more skill points, the new skills, more paragon points, and or legendary glyphs, new legendaries, uniques, new mythics. Your builds are going to hit new powerfuls, and difficulties are going to be included. That is what everybody is going to get, no matter where and or what you're doing. So if the expansion isn't enough to intrigue you, again, we still have half of this goddamn thing to go through. But so far, the changes that they have talked about thus far, aside from the runes, will be included for everybody to do. And I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that they've touched on that isn't going to be included, because the rewards are going to be there, the Infernal Hordes are going to be there, the Paragon changes are going to be there, the itemization changes are going to be there. There's a pretty much everything they've talked about is going to be here. The scrolls of retempering, or what was it, restoration? I can't exactly remember. But those will be there as well, right? So we will get a lot, or people will get a lot if they didn't get the expansion. It's not like they're not getting anything at all. So I do hope that some people Scroll of Restoration. That's what it was called. But I do hope people kind of sit down and they look at it and they're like, all right, cool. So there are a lot of things that you can get if you do get the expansion, but you're not missing out on you're missing out on Diablo content if you don't get the expansion, but you're still getting a lot if you just play the game and just have fun with it. So if people need more information, of course, we're compiling everything, but this is why we're sitting down talking about this, right? So on that note, let's get into the Spiritborn section of this chat. This is kind of what we were looking forward to, and I mean everything else that we've got, but thus far, let's do this dive into the Spiritborn here, and we'll do another little recap as we go through these sections. So I'll be back.
Well, I'm in the middle of chewing a totally gummy. Welcome back, guys. We are here. Sorry, to talk about Vessel of Hatred content. This is all the new content that's coming with the expansion. We've actually talked about this before in specific moments, but we didn't do like kind of bigger, deeper dives on this beyond like the Spiritborn, where we had a separate stream on, but we actually even have additional updates on that. But I want to let you guys introduce yourselves. As you can see, Brent has now moved to being next to me. He just wanted to be a little closer, that's all. But Derek, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Derek Nunez, lead season designer, and I'll be chatting about the Kuros Undercity in a few.
Bjorn.
Bjorn Mikkelsen, class designer for Spiritborn.
Hi, I'm Dan Brace. I'm a lead game designer, and I'll be talking about Mercenaries.
Awesome, cool. So, tons of content coming to Vessel of Hatred. I know players have heard us talk about it a little bit, but Brent, did you want to talk about any content specifically before we jump in?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of teeing up the next big thing that we want to talk about is just kind of how well the Spiritborn reaction has been since we've announced it. It's been amazing to see folks so excited about it. It's something that we've been pouring a lot of love into. We wanted to make sure they were adding something fresh to the game, and I really feel like we're there. But when we released it, we actually still had work to do. And so throughout the PTR, and the last few weeks of development here, we've been putting a lot of effort into polishing things up, and I'm super excited to hear Bjorn talk about what we've got in store.
Yeah, lots of internal testing. We had players actually check it out at Gamescom as well, which was really cool. So as we all know, Bjorn was on our Spiritborn reveal stream, and he's back to talk more about Spiritborn. So here is Spirit Bjorn to talk more about the Spiritborn. It's hard for me to actually say Spiritborn now because I just say Spirit Bjorn. So there we go.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes. I mean, we've seen a lot of the sort of in development side of it, and we're just going to talk about a few kind of final touches, the final version of a few things that we want to hit on quickly here in this presentation. So starting off, we're going to talk about a couple of updates to the Spiritborn's passives. First off, we have 3 additional passives which have been added to the tree. Each of these kind of amplifies how the skills work that they relate to. So we have one for core skills, one for potency skills, and one for focus skills. And that sort of lets you kind of go more all in on any of those skills. There's also here on the far side of the slide an update to Noxious Resonance, which is one of Spirit Spiritborn's key passives. We really wanted to kind of clarify how this mechanic works, how it scales, and kind of answer some lingering questions about exactly how it works. But it's still largely based around exploding the poisons on your enemies. Moving on to another thing, we're going to have a small update to the Jaguar primary Spirit Hall. This will still do lots of damage whenever you spec into it. It's all about damage with the Jaguar, but this has focused it a little bit more about multi-attack skills, high attack speed, and really like allowing you to ramp up the damage that you can get it, because now it's also based around the damage that you did in a short window, so that lets you sort of echo all of that damage that you did the faster you're attacking. Moving on to another small, or sort of medium-sized update, there was some confusion around Spirit Feathers, Storm Feathers, the Eagle Hall, how all that kind of works together. So this has been unified into a new concept just called Storm Feathers. What this is this is a buff that you can get. This increases your movement speed and it stacks duration. And now all of these things, they all speak to the Storm Feather concept. So you can get them, you can modify them, you can make them do different things, and you can even like use it to make kind of some crazy builds. I think we have a video for it where you can just kind of have feathers going all over the place as you're doing it. And you can even use like Tempering and various Paragon that increases Storm Feather potency. That will speak to all of these aspects as well as the Eagle primary hall. And then moving on to the last thing we've got should be our uniques. So some of you might have gotten to see some early versions of these, but we want to kind of show off the final versions with all of their stats in all of their glory. So to start off, we have 6 unique Spiritborn rings. Each of these kind of emphasizes a combination of 2 spirits and really lets you sort of tailor how you generate your resource to sort of make the build that you're looking to make. Then moving on to our unique armors, we showed off the Scorn of the Earth boots that turns your Soar into Evade, and everybody really loved that. A couple other examples, we've got a Craze of the Dead God, which allows you to turn poisoning, all damage coming at you into poisoning damage, and then sort of throw that back out at your enemies in the form of Touch of Death, which is pretty neat. And then we've also got our helms. We have 2 different unique helms. One is focused more along the lines of letting you sort of mix and match spirits, while the other one is more about kind of doubling down on using a single spirit. And then finally, we have our unique weapons. We've got several glaives and quarterstaffs. We already showed off the basic one, but we're going to quickly show off sort of its counterpart, which is the one for your core skills. So this one allows you to sort of spam your core skills almost as if they were basics. That's sort of reduced damage, but when you're at maximum vigor, it ramps up to be a maximum size, guaranteed crit, just massive screen clearing version of the core skill. So we think that one's pretty fun too. And then lastly, I believe I have a slide just for, yeah, there we go. Are drop tables for the bosses. So if you're looking to target farm any of these specific ones, similar to the other classes, you can kind of farm these based on different bosses. So take a screenshot of this and go for it.
Awesome. Yeah, tons of updates. We've done so much internal testing. We've heard a lot of feedback because we have that deep dive blog. We've seen people theory craft. We've seen people actually play it at Gamescom. We've had a couple content creators like during the Spiritborn live stream, and even during our like kind of a preview event, they actually got to try it out and stuff. So hearing all this feedback and then applying some of the feedback and some of the internal feedback that we ended up getting and seeing all the changes here and updating everyone has been really cool to see. So thank you again, Bjorn, for walking us through the Spiritborn. The class is incredibly fun. Day one is what I'm playing for Vessel of Hatred. I think most of us are, but it's a ton of fun to check out. Next up, what we wanted to talk about is Cuirass Undercity. This is actually a feature that we did announce with Gamescom, but we didn't really get a ton of opportunities to really kind of like dive deeper into what Cuirass Undercity is. So Derek, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Cuirass Undercity is a brand new dungeon experience that our Vessel of Hatred players will be unlocking throughout the course of the campaign. It's appropriately located in the new capital city of Cuirass, but it's the part of town that's not recommended that the standard citizen venture into. It's a section of the Cuirass town that is still infested by the jungles in Ahantu and kind of overrun with the worst of the worst. It's Nahantu's most wanted inside the various districts that make up the Undercity. Throughout the course, as players are unlocking it, they'll meet a new character named Seahek that kind of teaches you the laws of the Undercity and how to commune with the spirit flames to traverse its treacherous depths, basically. So that's kind of like the narrative setting for it, but let's dive into the actual experiential standpoint, which we see here already. So the Kuros Undercity is an intense multi-floor time attack dungeon where players will be racing against an aggressive countdown timer to reach the district boss with as high of a rewards upgrade meter built up as possible and try not to let that timer expire. So fun little novel wrinkle here is that killing certain monsters we refer to as afflicted will give you time bonuses to extend your time in the Undercity, and just killing monsters in general and completing dungeon activities will build up this reward upgrade meter referred to in-game as attunement. As far as the Undercity's role, it's one new novel leveling content, but its power really comes into the fact that it's brand new opportunistic content that allows players to make very efficient, very specific progress towards rewards goals as the opportunities arise. I'll dive deeper into that in the next few slides, but for now, just want to kind of set the stage that the Undercity does not necessarily have any objective aside from get to the boss, beat the clock, and do so with the highest amount of rewards upgrades built up as possible. How the players go about doing that is entirely up to them, because this is, again, a dungeon that celebrates autonomy, flow, and variety.
And this is a good example we were talking about earlier. When we're looking at the new modes that we have, we want that player agency to come back to the player. Yeah. Play your way. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the next slide here. Cool. So I mentioned opportunistic content. And this is where the Undercity's primary role in the reward structure is. So we have dungeon keys that grant you access to dungeons. The Undercity's version of a dungeon key is in the form of tributes. So you can hop into an Undercity run without a tribute, just do the thing, the base run. But when you start applying tributes, this is where we allow you to define the specific reward upgrade opportunities of your next Undercity run at the cost of increasing the run's challenge. So you can see an example of a tribute here. This is the Tribute of Radiance. And when you slot this in, so long as you complete your Undercity run with at least attunement rank 1, we will guarantee that you get ancestral legendaries at the end. We'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the nuances. You can see that it has dungeon affixes that define the specific challenge. So the higher and more powerful the tribute, the tougher the challenge is in the form of lower starting time, time bonus penalties, and potion drop penalties. But the fun doesn't stop there. In fact, we're just getting started. Once you apply a tribute, you now unlock the ability to define a bargain. Each tribute has a list of bargains mapped to it. So this Tribute of Radiance has a collection of them. We're just picking out a couple that seem pretty fun to show off. And bargains allow you to further customize your rewards at a varying material cost. So we have one here, skill ranks, legendary armors will always possess at least one skill rank affix for X amount of gold here. And then the passive ranks, which you'll see a little bit more later, the legendary amulets will always possess at least one passive rank affix. So let's go into the next slide just to, again, recap the full flow. And we're going to see a video of all of this to let it all kind of soak in and see the full flow of the Undercity. So we have the front end experience where you interact with the Spirit Brazier. You can jump directly into your district run, or you can optionally apply a tribute and then a bargain to specify the rewards opportunity of your next run. So let's go see this in action. Look at that. So this is the hub of the Undercity, and that's the Spirit Brazier that I was mentioning. You can see that we have the base run rules. Starting time, no time bonus penalties, no potion drop penalties, and we have the opportunity to apply a tribute. We have 4 tributes here, so we'll show these in a still shot later, so you don't have to worry about what does it say. But we have 4 tributes here that range from magic all the way to unique to accommodate your leveling journeys. So for now, we applied the legendary tribute that'll guarantee ancestral uniques at the end of your run. And again, this is the list of potential bargains that I mentioned that each tribute has. Each tribute has like varying quantities of bargains attached to it. So we're going to pick the passive rank legendary amulets for the low price of 50 million gold. The Spirit Flame services don't come cheap, but they're worth it. So we got the portal open, and we're going to hop into the run. We're going to have this play a couple times. First, I just want to point out the HUD, because this is really kind of your guide through the experience. So you can see at the top, once we exited that Spirit Aura, the timer starts, and that's a nice little timer at the top right-hand corner of your screen. We also display the number of floors that you have left to traverse. Very key information right there. To the right-hand side in the objective tracker, we have the attunement meter, and it's segmented into 4 ranks. Again, as I mentioned, achieving rank 1 is the bare minimum requirement necessary to get the value of the tribute that you slotted in. All subsequent ranks further enhance the value of that reward. So while you certainly want to strive to get attunement rank 4 to maximize your payout, it's not necessary if you're feeling the pinch of the time pressure. That if you at least get attunement rank 1, you can run it to the boss room and still come away with the thing that you're looking for. Gonna point out a couple things here. You might have seen, let's do the Spirit Beacon. So the Spirit Beacon is one of our activity types, and completing it both gives you attunement, a good splash of attunement, and it applies a momentary spirit buff that increases your movement speed and reduces your, the skill cooldowns. Again, you got to move fast in the Undercity, so these Spirit Beacons are incredibly useful for getting you to the next location, whether it's another Spirit Beacon or the exit. We're also kind of showing here the lesser afflicted. As you can see, they're clearly marked in the game world. They're all orangey glowy, so you can keep your focus on the combat. And killing them is what gives you the time bonuses to extend your run. I think that's kind of the long and short of the Undercity run. Again, this is an example of floor 1. There's still 2 more floors to traverse to get to the boss room. Yeah, let's hop up. There we go. We're into the boss room. So in this case, we have finished all 3 floors and we made it to the boss room. One thing you notice that time expiration, it stops. Time drain stops in the boss room. So you just need to make it to the boss room before that timer hits 0. This is Aaliyah, one of our 3 district bosses. And it's important to call out that there are 3 total districts to explore in the Undercity. Again, that's kind of tapping into the variety aspect of things. So Aaliyah is, again, just one of 3 henchmen that own the various districts. So in this case, we're at the tail end of this fight. We just, killed Aaliyah, and we see that we ended this run with a full reward upgrade of 4. So now we're going to get the best possible payout for this. And we came in here looking for ancestral legendaries, and as the Spirit Flames promised, ancestral legendaries is what we get. And the greater affixes. And we also see that we got an amulet. If we were to dive into the amulet, we would have seen that the bargain would have applied to it as well. So the player would have gotten specifically what they came in here for. Here, looking for ancestral legendaries is what we get. And the greater affixes. And we also see that we got an amulet. If we were to dive into the amulet, we would have seen that the bargain would have applied to it as well. So the player would have gotten specifically what they came in here for. So that's a really quick snapshot of just the structure of an Undercity flow. I want to take this time just to dive into a little bit more details on the tributes that we saw in the gameplay footage and spend a little bit more time with them. So this is an example of 4 of our 8 total tributes. These are hand-selected primarily just to showcase how the tributes are tuned to progress with your leveling journeys. So we start off here with the Tribute of Growth. This is usable on all difficulty levels. This is the tribute that rewards additional experience when you complete the Undercity. So this is great, for leveling up your alts, leveling up your character in general. And you can see here that we start applying the first of the, penalties or challenges for this, in the sense that we have lower starting time. We actually incur a time bonus penalty now, and we have potion drop penalties. Something also to note is, this is just found randomly in Sanctuary, so as you're just doing your standard leveling stuff, like the Hell Tides or whatever, you will get these types of tributes to say, point you to the Undercity every now and again. So let's go back to the tribute gallery, as I like to call it.
Can we go back to that last slide that we had up there? There we go.
Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. Thank you. And then we get to, from there, it just gets progressively more challenging, but also progressively more rewarding for the players. So Tribute of Harmony rewards guaranteed runes. This is a Torment tier difficulty. And you can see, we just amp up the challenge with each one. The Tribute of Radiance is the one that we just saw in action, that we guaranteed Ancestral Legendaries. And the Tribute of Ascendance is an example of kind of like the cream of the crop tribute, unique tribute that guarantees several uniques with an increased chance of a mythic unique. And I just want to call it out here that I know that the last two tributes say that they're resolute tributes and they only apply rewards to the player that offered it. We do have variants of both of these that work in party. So that whole is covered. The rest of the tributes that don't have that distinction, they reward everyone in the party. It's just these last two that kind of had that little asterisk on it. Yeah, I think that's the gallery of the tributes, and again, these are mapped to the rest of them are mapped to a variety of content like the whisper caches, the summoned lair bosses, and a variety of things that I'm forgetting on the spot here.
Yeah, this is a fantastic activity to do when you're somewhat in the mid game of your journey. So you're going to be introduced to this as you're making your way through the campaign, and
they reward everyone in the party. It's just these last two that kind of had that little asterisk on it. Yeah, I think that's the gallery of the tributes, and again, these are mapped to the rest of them are mapped to a variety of content like the whisper caches, the summoned lair bosses, and a variety of things that I'm forgetting on the spot here.
Yeah, this is a fantastic activity to do when you're somewhat in the mid game of your journey. So you're going to be introduced to this as you're making your way through the campaign, and but the thing I like about it is with all the progression changes that we've been looking at, this also scales with you, and so this is the type of activity that's going to stick with you for a while. It's a great way to get control over looking for the items you're looking for, and the time attack feature of this is really great.
Yeah. And I think the big thing here is like you can do it solo or you can do it with a group. So it's not like you have other options if you want to bring in a full party or if you like to just conquer it yourself. And I know a lot of people in chat are going like, hey, 50 million for all that. There are. I'm not sure if you guys saw all the different bargains and everything. There's a plethora of different costs for a lot of different options. And depending on what you're looking for, you can obviously target specific things. You may specifically want uniques or something like that, and that like chaotic uniques I think had like an obol requirement or whatever. So there's a lot of different bargain options for players to get, and if you are looking for specific rewards, you have an additional avenue to do so, which is really cool with Cuirass Undercity. So awesome. Cool. Well, there we go. That's
I think there's more actually.
More? Oh,
we're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Yeah, the best prices.
Yeah, the Cuirass Undercity is the gift that keeps on giving. So one additional activity that you'll discover as you're romping through the Undercity is our Undercity unique treasure goblin, the Portal Prankster. We'll show some gameplay footage in just a moment, but first I just want to call out killing him will reward a bonus chest at the end of the dungeon. And in addition, that contains just standard treasure goblin loot, runes, and more tributes. So it's a really good, very juicy reward to go after the Portal Prankster when you come across him. But you would be doing so at your own peril, because you'll see in this video that he has a particular mechanic to him that makes it a little bit tricky when you have a continually timer that's continually counting down. So you'll see here that when he's aggroed, he opens up a bunch of portals and just like Benny Hills through them. It's a chase. So this is kind of tapping into the risk versus reward nature of the Undercity, where you make decisions based on how confident you are at the current state of your run. And again, killing him is very lucrative. He doesn't drop anything aside from attunement right from the get-go, but all of his rewards are funneled at the end of the experience. So again, a variety of the spice of life in the Undercity, and really excited to get this into the hands of players.
Yeah, it's cool to see a new Goblin variant right there, and then of course, the ultimate Troll Goblin, as you can see in the gameplay, and that's the risk reward you were talking about. Like, do you spend the time and chasing after this specific goblin as it's bouncing between different portals as your time is ticking down, and you're trying to progress and get better rewards. And of course, if you succeed and you get everything, you get that extra chest at the end, which is really awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's worth it.
Yeah, most definitely is worth it, especially since you get so much progress added once you do actually take down the goblin as well. So thank you, Derek, for walking us through this. We have a bunch of seats here. We actually have a physical seat here, because we do actually have one other person that we're going to be tapping into to talk to us about the Dark Citadel, and this is Mr. Jason Bentley, who is live via satellite. That's what I'm going to say, satellite, from the East Coast. Jason is our lead raid designer on Dark Citadel, and Jason, do you want to talk to us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. As you heard, I'm the lead for the Dark Citadel, and we're going to talk about Rise of the Khazra. This is the very first multiplayer-focused piece of content for Diablo 4. Next page. So, as you can kind of guess, this whole thing's about essence and souls and sealing them and owning them and just using it as power. Go ahead. So why are we here? We're here to fight the first Khazra. They are taking over the crater left from the Mage Clan Civil War, blasted a hole into the ground, and they've moved in, and they're using all the souls from the dead Mage Clan people to power their crazy experiments. They're really, really evil. They are taking people, they take their own kind, and they turn them into like power sources and batteries, and they use them, and they're all about resurrecting their dead god Zagral. This all takes place starts in Nahantu. You start out the whole quest line in Kurast. People are going to tell you how bad this is. They really don't like having their friends and family stolen and taken and drained and having husks returned. So you're going to go on a quest to go find out what's happened to these people and see if you can go help. A lot of other heroes have actually tried this, and they have all failed. So really, when you get through this entire experience, what you really come back with is only together can we prevail. We need to bring some friends with you to come to do this content. You're not going to be able to do it on your own. Once you get through all of this, this actually only happens at Torment 1. So this is not a early leveling experience. This is something when you're really into the game and you really need to like move your build along. So once you enter Torment 1, you can go on this quest and access the Ancient Nexus, which is its own town space with a waypoint of all of its own, which gives access to the 3 dungeons you can see here. These dungeons have multiple boss fights in each one, and they each take a little bit of time to get through. Practice will help you optimize these runs. Experience will help you show expertise and shepherding other people to show them how to complete these mechanics. And communication is not required, but it definitely leads to better outcomes. There's a lot of new challenges and mechanics, and there's really no mercy for the hardcore players, so you have to be good too. As you can see right now, we've actually got one party split across 2 different realms, doing different mechanics and helping each other and coming back together to bring down the boss. It really takes at least 2 players to do these mechanics. We have multiplayer boss fights through the entire experience, and we always say that players are stronger together. It's tuned for 4 players. 2 players can do these mechanics, but it means you have to handle the mechanics and the monsters and the bosses by yourselves. We're not going to duck the difficulty for fewer players. We have lots of crazy mechanics going on. We've got people relying on each other to get through all of this. There's a lot of hero moments in this content. The best moments we had when we were playtesting this is somebody's dead and the other person's running around and they click the switch or they res their friend right in time to jump through the portal or kill the boss, and everyone's just screaming and having a great time. It's really, really fun to work together and see those moments where, like, depending on your party members, really pays off. We also have an exclusive monster family for the Dark Citadel. These are the newest, smartest monsters you have met. These are the first Khazra. They're pretty evil people. Shout out to the first Khazra monster family team. They did a great job on all of these guys. They are awful. They're decadent. They're sophisticated. They use a lot of magic. They do a lot of crazy things to, like, bring down the party.
These are cool looking enemies, that's for sure. I know with at least Dark Citadel, of course, there's always awesome rewards that are kind of associated with this. Jason, do you want to talk to us a little bit about those?
Absolutely.
I think we have that queued up. Yeah, let's see if we can get that queued up here. The joys of
Well, we do have.
We did it.
Oh, actually, a quick quality of life improvements here.
Yeah.
We actually have a marker system to help parties get through the experience. You can just drop them into your emote wheel, and then as you're running through the experience, you can use those emotes to indicate to your friends and party members, hey, I found something of interest, or hey, it's over here, this is the way forward. And then a really nice thing is this is available outside the Citadel as well. It's not exclusive. So you'll be able to use this wherever you go with your party. We also have a combat log during the Citadel experience to help you understand what's happening, especially where you're taking damage from and big moments. And you've heard about the Party Finder. That's also created with obviously Citadel in mind, but it supports everybody else. But we want to make sure we facilitate getting lots of people into this content.
Yeah,
hopefully now we can talk about rewards.
Yeah. Well, before we jump into that, I do want to make mention, because that was a really interesting screen to see the communication stuff and talking about Party Finder. One of the things that we've seen since launch is that our cooperative player base is growing. You know, it's growing steadily, and so we wanted to make sure that we did a couple of things. First off, we wanted endgame content for them, right? That's what this is all about, is making sure that we have that really aspirational endgame content for folks who like to play with their friends. The other thing is that we know that we could let this spread out into more segments of the game. And so the Party Fighter was originally a discussion that we had for how to support the Dark Citadel, but it is now benefiting all the other activities in our game as well. So for those of you who experience, you're seeing the early stages of us really expanding, getting people together in the content that is the best inside of the game. And so it's really exciting. But it does boil down to that communication, and that marker system is something that can be both used in the Citadel as well as outside of the Citadel.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be really valuable for accessibility for a lot of folks out there.
Yep, most definitely. All right, now on to rewards.
Now we'll talk rewards.
There you go.
Sorry, had to get that in there.
Absolutely. So you're actually chasing a weekly reward that resets on the Tuesday or the day of the week that we set. So really, that's going to drop a massive ancestral loot drop each time you pop that open, which only happens when you complete all 3 dungeons. You're going to want to chase that thing. That is a huge, important drop for a week. But beyond that, there's lots of rewards for repeated runs. The Citadel coins are going to allow you to purchase all these consumables, and you can maximize the number of coins you get per run by killing treasury monsters and playing on higher difficulties. Like, it really scales up the Citadel coins you get. And why do you care about those? Well, these rewards these consumables really make it easier and more fun to play with groups and parties. But it also allows purchase of the Scroll of Restoration. So if you want to just chase down and buy scrolls, this is a great place to do that.
Sick slide for production right
there. We're doing this live, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's actually really cool to see. And again, the scroll of restoration being a reward in Dark Citadel, and like what we talked about earlier, you actually do get 2 guaranteed ones in the season journey, and at the same time, those are something that you can find all around the world. But Dark Citadel is like also just like that guaranteed way of being able to get it as well. So there's a lot of different variety of rewards, but it goes beyond what we just showed right there. There's actually some really, really cool stuff as well that I know Jason wants to show off us.
Absolutely. I would love to end up on just the way everyone can show off their ability to just play this content to the top levels. So we're going to show you our premier gear. There's actually 2 levels of gear that you can get from playing the Dark Citadel. There's the normal level gear, which you'll get from Torments 1 through 3, and it's pretty accessible. But what you're seeing right now is our premier content, which comes from only completions in Torment 4. So, I hope this is as exciting for everyone to get as I'm excited to give it to you. So, I'll see you in the Citadel, and thank you for letting me show this off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. To this mount.
Mountain.
Go back to the mount. Go back to the mount. I know you were probably like, oh, we got to scroll through everything. But, okay, there we go. The mount is sick. Oh, see, scroll through. There we go.
Do it live.
Okay, yeah, the mount is sick. That's something that I think a lot of people are going to be kind of like chasing after for sure with the Dark Citadel. Jason, thank you so much for walking us through that. Really excited for it. And what's cool is, like, as Jason mentioned, Dark Citadel itself, like, you can do it with a group of 4. You can even attempt to go for 2 people. If you're really skilled, you have that option of being able to do it. The Party Finder feature now being part of the game now. You can actually access Party Finder, find other people that may want to jump into Dark Citadel and group up with them. And of course, we have the additional communication tools with all the different pings that you can end up using and markers that you can end up using to help kind of guide that whole entire group there. So lots of cool stuff coming with Dark Citadel, really cool endgame content that's coming to Vessel of Hatred, and we can't wait to see people jump into it. Can't wait to jump into it myself. But of course, we have one last topic that we do want to talk about with Vessel of Hatred, and that is our Mercenaries feature. That is something that we did announce during Gamescom, but we do want to go into a little bit of a deeper dive today on that specifically. So Brent, Dan, do you guys want to take us through Mercenaries?
Yeah, just to kick it off, you know, Mercenaries is one of those legacy features that you've seen in multiple Diablo games. And when we started talking about this very early on, we're like, what is the approach that we can take that really complements everything else that we're doing in Diablo 4 that is different? Obviously, we've been touching things like itemization, and we've been doing a bunch of reworks on class builds. So we knew a couple things here. First, we wanted to make sure that the system was built in a way that could complement your build type, right? So every build type has a little bit of a soft spot, and Mercenaries is a really good way of, you can level them up in a way that can actually fill in that soft spot. And the other thing that we really wanted to make sure of is that they were always useful, right? And so as you play along the game, like, you're interacting with them in way different ways than you would just by leveling up and using them basically as a power item, right? And so the way that we folded this in is far more robust than we've seen in other systems in the past. And yeah, I can't wait for Dan to show it off.
Awesome, yeah, let's dive into it. So I think we can go to the first slide. Awesome. So we announced these characters at Gamescom. And these are the 4 mercenaries that you're going to meet as you play Vessel of Hatred. Early on in the campaign, you're going to meet Rahir, the guy in the middle, and you're going to lend him a hand in kind of tracking down these other characters, doing their quest lines, and unlocking them. And they're like really involved quest lines. They're pretty awesome. They have cutscenes. They have, you know, a lot of narrative and backstory where you kind of get to know more about these characters. And they have a lot of personality, so they're pretty interesting. And we really want to make them feel like characters that live in the world. They don't just sit in the hideout the whole time when you're running around, and you might see an event where they're actually participating in the event. So you may even run into some of these characters before you unlock them. Cool, so today I'm going to cover a little bit more detail than what we announced at Gamescom. I'm going to talk about playstyle and perk for each mercenary. I'm going to talk about reinforcements, which is a new way to interact with mercenaries. And then we're going to talk about bartering and progression at the end. All right, so I'm going to talk about the playstyles for each mercenary, and to start, I want to just show an example of a skill tree. So every skill tree for a mercenary, at the very top, the starting node is their perk. And this is a passive bonus you get whenever a mercenary is hired into your party. And they're pretty awesome. They're really powerful. Hopefully when you hire a merc, you feel like they're changing the way you play. And then every skill tree has 6 skills and 12 upgrades. So let's dive into some examples. So for Rahir, he's really like the tank if you need someone to help protect you. And his skill tree is kind of split up into a tower shield, which is about getting in the thick of battle, tanking things for you, taunting, and he also has a round shield, which is sort of themed around being a holy protector. So the top node that you start with for Rahir, and this is when you hire him to your party, is Valiance. And what this does is basically if you take a lot of damage in one hit, he's going to fly in, negate that damage, block it for you, and he's going to knock down enemies. He's also going to grant you Unstoppable, so he can really save your life. So here's an example where this beast is going to hit me, and these guys hit pretty hard. So here comes, boom. So Rahir kind of leapt in, he negated that damage, and he knocked them down. So that's awesome. I imagine hardcore players will gravitate towards this unless they are risk takers, so definitely a very powerful perk. Cool, let's talk about some upgrades. I think we skipped ahead a slide if we want to go back one. There we go. Cool, so here's some upgrade examples on Rahir's skill tree. The first one, Draw Fire. We're going to show a video in a second. Whenever I use a healing potion, Rahir's going to taunt enemies near him. So if you're in danger, you need health, it's going to help save you. Iron Wolf's Virtue, when Rahir's Valiance is triggered, he heals you and his cooldown's reduced, so you can just get it to happen more often. And he has a shield throw, which some D3 Crusader players might love, where he chucks his shield, it bounces off some targets, and this kind of marks them so you can sort of play whack-a-mole, and if you hit those targets, you'll get healed back. So it's another way to keep yourself alive. All right, cool. Let's check out an example for Draw Fire. So you're going to see I use my potion. The UI would help you show that, but yeah, I used the potion right there. Rahir taunted everybody. Sweet. I did not die, and I'm happy. All right, let's go to the next one. So Varyana, we call her the Berserker Crone. She is a reformed cannibal. She's got a pretty interesting backstory. I love her personality. She's kind of zany and crazy. She's also the cook for the mercenaries, and I don't know if I would eat her food. I don't really trust her. But her skill tree's kind of split up into 2 themes, dual wield axes, which is all about visceral cleaves and bleeds, and large mace, which is heavy slams. So you may be familiar with the Massacre bonus from D3. Her perk is very similar, where basically you get this bonus. We could jump to the video. And as you kill monsters, you're going to see when I get 10 kills, the Massacre bonus kicks in. It's going to show up above her portrait on the left side of the screen. So it should say times 10. Cool. I now have a Massacre bonus started. As I build this up and I get it to higher thresholds, I'm going to get more and more movement speed. So you're kind of encouraged to play more aggressive, keep this going before it runs out of time. And it sort of snowballs into this fun gameplay where you're going really fast. So you can embrace your inner Sanic and go real fast with Varyana as your hired merc. All right, I got some upgrades for Varyana. So Dismembering is... Oh, yeah, sorry. So this one is going to guarantee an overpower. She's going to knock people down, and you get a guaranteed overpower. So if you're playing Barb, it's going to be really useful. Reprisal is when you get CC'd, Varyana is going to leap on the enemy that inflicted it and knock them down. So this can also save your life. And No Escape is Varyana does Whirlwind. This makes it really big, and as she's spinning around, she's kind of grouping enemies up for you. So that can be a fun one. I think we showed both. So yeah, Dismembering here. So she's going to set us up. We get a guaranteed overpower. You do a bunch of damage. Sweet. That feeds into a lot of builds. And then we have Reprisal here. So I got chained by that monster. She leapt on them, knocked them down, basically canceling that for me. All right, cool. Subo the Bounty Hunter. He's themed on longbows, which is precision shooting and traps. The other side of his tree is crossbows, heavy bolts, and explosives. And his perk is kind of broken up into 2 parts. So he has a passive component, which is he reveals enemies and materials on the mini-map. And his active component is that we call him the Bounty Hunter because he's going to call out targets during combat. And if you kill that target, you get a bunch of resource back. And also, the more you do that, the more often he's going to be casting Seeker. So you're kind of trying to keep this up where you want to make sure you're killing his targets and spending your resource before you do so. And this lets you just cast more abilities, which always feels great. All right, let's check out an example. So I'm in town. I'm going to walk out here with Subo. And you can look at the mini map, top right, and it's starting to populate with herbs and ore veins, and you'll see all the monsters on the mini map as well. So that's kind of his scouting component. And sorry, we're going to have to loop this one because I talked too slowly, but he also is marking a target, and you saw when I killed them, I got a bunch of resource.
Yeah, I know a lot of people with Subo, especially because the fact that he highlights like ore veins and things like that are pretty huge for people, especially with all the changes that we're adding to like how materials can also be used to maybe craft like legendaries and stuff. So Subo is kind of like my personal favorite, but yeah.
It definitely embraces, I think, what Brent was talking about too, where mercenaries are really about utility, and they kind of add choices that maybe you wouldn't necessarily pick on your character. Or they help you just kind of like fill gaps in your build, or maybe encourage you to do, have more diversity in your build. Maybe they expose new options for you. So it's pretty interesting. All right, cool. We're going to show off some Subo upgrades. So first we have Share a Drink, which is whenever he throws his Molotov, there's a chance for him to drop a healing potion for you. Mastermind, Subo's Wire Trap and Trip Mines gain 60% size. And then you and Subo both have increased crowd control duration. Thrill Seeker is going to reduce cooldowns for every monster hit. So here's an example of Share a Drink. He threw a Molotov, he dropped a potion for me, and that can just help you more consistently get potions, which could definitely be useful for a lot of players. All right, Aldkin. This is definitely a fan favorite. We call him the Forsaken Child. His tree is sort of split up into two magic types, Fire Magic, which is all about burning enemies and making them suffer, and Shadow Magic, which is haunting souls that kind of like apply dots and spread to enemies. His perk is dependent on what your skill tree choices are. So if you're on the fire side of the tree or the shadow, you will get different buffs and debuffs. So every once in a while, he's going to turn into a demon of one of those forms. If he's on the shadow side, you and all the enemies around him become vulnerable. If he's on the fire side, he's going to make it so all your direct damage applies burn to enemies, but it's also draining your resource. So he's really themed around this Kiss Curse mechanic, and whenever this happens, it can be a huge benefit, but also there's some downsides to it, potentially. All right, cool, so he's casting some fire skills. We're gonna see Aldkin on the left, he's turning into a fire demon. This gives him a whole new skill set. He's got immolation, he's burning nearby enemies, and he's helping kill everything. And then you can see when I'm doing direct damage, it's applying burn, but also my resource is draining. This is if I'm on the shadow side. He turned into a shadow demon at the top. He's going to do a cool ability where he pulls everyone into a line, lines them up for you. That always feels really good. And yeah, in that one, he's making everyone vulnerable. Sweet, let's talk about some upgrades for Aldkin. So I think this will be a lot of people's favorites. Ember's Gift, whenever he casts Firestorm, if you stand in it, you're getting 33% of your primary resource per second. And we're going to show a video of that in a sec. Terrify, he does Haunt. Yeah, thank you. He's got 30% chance to apply invulnerable to enemies, so another way to get keywords applied to things. And Burning Chaos, that's his ult. Whenever you cast your ult, it resets his. Wave of Flame is really cool. It's this giant fire wave that destroys enemy projectiles. You can kind of like run with it and fight inside of it, and I've seen a lot of people get use out of that. Cool, okay, let's check out Ember's Gift. So he's going to cast Firestorm, and look at my resource. It's just flying up really fast while I'm standing in this area. So it's a good way to kind of have this happen, and then you just get to spam a bunch of abilities and murder monsters. So yeah, here's a quick example of, we do have a lot of keywords and ways for mercenaries to utilize them and spread them to enemies, so that can help with a lot of builds too.
Yeah, it's nice having an option to like add vulnerable to more enemies, especially like AoE, doing AoE or anything like that. So yeah, really cool to see. I know, of course, there's other mechanics with mercenaries that we did want to talk about. So Dan, do you want to jump into how reinforcements actually works?
Yeah, let's talk about reinforcements. So I guess before I explain reinforcements, there are two methods of using mercenaries. One is hiring them, and that's for solo players. So if you're playing solo, you're not in a party, you can hire a mercenary. Everyone at all times can also have a reinforcement. So if you're in a party, everyone has a reinforcement. If you're solo, you get both. And if you're playing solo, they have to be two different characters. So your hired mercenary has to be different from your reinforcement. All right, what the heck are reinforcements? So reinforcements are a new way to interact with mercs where you can kind of call a mercenary into battle, have them perform a skill at an opportune moment, and you get to sort of control when that happens. And this reminds me a lot of like old school fighting games where you can kind of cast an ability and a character will fly in off screen, he'll do something really cool. Hopefully that helps you a lot, and that's, I think very much inspired by that.
Yeah, it's like assists. They jump in, they do something, and then they like pop back out, so it's really cool.
So you're gonna choose an opportunity, which is when does it happen? You could link this to any of your action bar slots. So you could say, hey, when I press 1 and I teleport, the mercenary does this skill, and then you choose a skill that you have unlocked for that mercenary. All right, let's check out some examples. So this one's quick. I'm gonna cast teleport, and you'll see Rahir appear. And then he sort of flies in battle. He does this triple slam. He groups everyone up. Grouping enemies up is always good. Thank you, Rahir. I drop a meteor on their head. In this one, we cast Bone Prison, and Oldkin shows up and casts Firestorm for me. There's going to be a lot of combinations here, I think, with all the different player abilities and all the different reinforcement skills. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how players utilize the system. You can use it more defensively or more offensively, and hopefully you agree, a lot of the skills give you added utility. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here to mix and match, which would be cool.
Another thing I'm excited about that is that the system is built to grow. And so our ability to add more conditions in which you bring them in and continue to grow potentially the powers that we could see too. It's a very robust system that can go a pretty long way. So it's great.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. And I think finally we want to talk about some bartering.
Yeah, we're going to talk about rapport, which is the progression, and then bartering, but they're all, it's all tied together.
It's all one unit.
We're good.
It's all tied.
Yeah, so rapport is the progression for mercenaries, and we could go ahead and jump to the first slide. So this is what the rapport looks like. You may be familiar with this type of UI. In this example, we're rank 5. The first 4 skill ranks are how you get your skill points for the skill tree. We want you to unlock all the cool, fun abilities for mercs pretty quickly and up front. After that point, it's all about upgrades for bartering. And bartering is, we're going to show it off in a second, but progressing your mercs improves the bartering system, which is kind of a way to trade with mercenaries at the hideout and get really useful items. So the very last rank, we hovered over it quickly there, you can actually repeat the very last rank for mercenaries and continue to earn the currency. So if you say, hey, I really like Aldkin, I don't want to level anyone else up, you could just keep playing this character and you'll keep getting resources. Hopefully we're encouraging you though with these upgrades to kind of rank up all your mercs and keep making bartering better. All right, let's talk about bartering. So at the hideout, you can talk to Fiera, and she will pull up a UI where you can trade for items. A lot of them are legendaries, and as you upgrade your mercs, you're gonna basically increase this list so you can find more interesting things. Hopefully you can find some really cool legendary items that you're excited about. As you upgrade your mercs, you're going to get more chances for legendaries, and each mercenary has an aspect category associated with them. So Oldkin, for example, gives you resource aspect caches. So if you level up Oldkin, that has a chance, instead of getting a resource legendary, you're going to get a resource legendary aspect cache. And in this case, we open one of those caches. Sweet, I got a bunch of items. It's not exactly target farming, but it's a way to increase your chances of things you may be looking for. There's going to be a lot of other really useful items in here, like crafting materials, boss summoning parts, some masterworking recipes, things like that. And that's about it. So you can restock the supply on this, and the currency you re-roll this inventory with is the same currency that you're spending to buy items. So you kind of have to pick and choose, like, do I want to re-roll or do I want to wait? And hopefully you see things that you're interested in and you buy them. And then every day when you log in, you get one free re-roll. Just trying to be nice to the players. Hopefully you get what you want without having to waste all your pale marks. And I think that's all we have for mercenaries today. So thank you for...
Yeah, I love hearing about the bartering system, because it's just another avenue for, like, hey, if I need masterworking materials or if I need boss summoning materials, I can literally go and check and see if I can barter for it now, as another opportunity for getting those specific things, which is really, really cool to see. So Dan, thank you very much for walking us through the mercenaries coming to Vessel of Hatred. And so everything that this group actually talked about here, this is all exclusive to Vessel of Hatred. So with the expansion and anyone who actually ends up purchasing the expansion, they'll be able to access all the different features that we talked about, from Spiritborn to Curious Undercity to Dark Citadel, and of course the mercenaries. So lots of stuff in the expansion specifically for this that we're all excited for everyone to jump into. October 7th, 4 p.m. Pacific in California, globally, wherever your time zone is, that it's tied to that is when it will end up hitting. So, and we have a cool map. But I know we talked about a lot today. We do want to, of course, do our normal Q&A that we always do at the end. But before we actually end up doing that, I know, Brent, you wanted to talk a little bit about the journey here.
Yeah, honestly, we talk at the team level a lot about our communication with the community at this point. And I've said it a few times where it's like, it feels so good to be in a dialogue now. And everybody at home, you've heard us say, we're listening. I actually feel like we're well beyond that point at this moment. Like, we really feel like the community is now one of our team members, and we're developing together at this point, and we're starting to all pull in the same direction, and we've learned so much, right? We've come out with season 1, we took some lumps there, right? We knew we had a lot of work to do, and all the dialogue that we've had has led up to like things like the success of season 4 and season 5. And so the fact that the community is really a part of our team now, it shows us a great pathway. We still have a lot of work to do. There's things we want to get to.
Yeah.
Armory.
Yeah. Armory.
We want
which
to get
is
to
in
Armory.
development. Yeah. So
we talked about that a little bit at Gamescom, but these are the types of things that are really fine-tuning the way we could get there. And honestly, we couldn't get there without all of you at home. Thank you for staying with us on this journey. Can't wait to get to the Q&A.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, like, just to reiterate, like what Brent was saying, I think the community speaking about how they really wanted us to have a PTR, having those PTR moments, having players in earlier, being able to provide that feedback. Huge shout out to you guys for being able to help us out with this journey that we've been on. We've made some massive strides since the first season, and it's only getting better from here, which is really cool. So awesome. Well, I think we're going to jump into the Q&A. We're actually going to bring some people in from before, swap people out, do the musical chairs thing again, and we'll see you here in a minute for the Q&A. If you guys have questions, please start teeing them up in chat, and we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. So we'll see you in a minute.
Okay. So we'll recap everything that just happened in that big section. So we went over Spiritborn. There were a couple of things that they added, some things that they changed. I'm pretty sure every single unique got a rebalance and things got changed there. So that's something we are definitely going to have to look at and get into, because they change builds drastically with how they've been messed around with. Definitely some interesting changes with the uniques there. But that's something that we'll deep dive into in a little bit. Kurost Undercity. Seeing how it kind of works, the fact that there is a way to manipulate the dungeon to give even more experience based off of just doing the dungeon, that's a big thing. But you do need to find that. One note that I wanted to point out was you have tributes and you have the bargains that come with those tributes, right? So the tribute that you bring to the table, whether or not it's a magic, rare, legendary, or unique tribute, the fact that you can guarantee tributes, or that you can guarantee those items at the end. So if you have a magic one, it boosts experience. If you have a rare one, it boosts materials or gold. I believe it was gold. If you do the legendary one, it guarantees a greater affix on an item. And if you use the unique one, it guarantees uniques with the increased chance of mythic or mythic uber uniques, right? So those being the things, but the two that they offered at the end said that you could only earn them rarely through whisper caches. So if you can only rarely earn them through whisper caches, that gives an increased reason to chase whispers as well, to constantly keep turning them over, because if you get the chance to just do one of those quick time attack runs, it's a quick timer event, right? So that means it's going to be fast. So by doing so, you will net uniques greater affix, legendaries, gold, experience, whatever you're chasing. Even that normal one that they did that gave guaranteed legendary affixes, and yes, it may have cost 50 million gold, but they also got an amulet with guaranteed passives on it. So you can manipulate your gear to drop specific stats that you want. Not even specific stats, but specific pool of stats, right? So it's going to drop all passives on, or it'll drop passives on an amulet instead of just random fucking things to gear, right? Or the what's it called? Or you, like they said, they took out the impairment reduction stat off of gear, so you're no longer ever going to see that. So that's a great move, honestly. But the fact that they have bargains attached to the tributes and they allow you to mess with the dungeon, tune it to how you want it to reward you. And we get this early on. I don't know how far into the campaign we have to go in order to unlock this, but it might be worth doing, especially if it is worth it. Because even just the one instance that they showed us as somebody who is Paragon level 91, they still got about like, what was it, 20? What was it, like? I'd say probably about like 15%, if not like 20% of a level. I'd say more like 10-15%. It wasn't that crazy, but that wasn't the experience focused key for the dungeon either, though, right? So that's a big thing. We're gonna have to see how much the extra experience actually engages. If it's double the experience, definitely worth it. In leveling, that might be massive, because that much experience at Paragon 91 and Torment, I think it was 2 that they were going through. It could have been Torment 1. I wasn't quite paying attention to the level. But like, where's it at, right? They were in Torment 2. And then when you go to the end fight or whatever, when this person dies,
we're at the tail.
I'm just gonna mute it, but you can see once they loot the chest, their experience goes from just before to when they actually open it. It goes to about the middle of the counterattack icon, I believe. So just shy of it. So actually more, probably like a 5% increase on experience at Torment 2 at Paragon 91, where you have a lot of experience to get. So here they are again. But the reward upgrade is experience, and the higher you complete it at the attunement, so the attunement being this bar over here, so the more you hit it at, the more of a reward you get. So at that tier 4, because this was geared towards giving legendary items, so instead of items pouring out of the chest, you might still get a reward of items, but it'll probably spill out more experience per tier that you get, as well as killing the boss and stuff, because the boss isn't time attacked, it's just the dungeon itself. So that is nice. More player agency is always a good thing. I absolutely agree. Quick, 50 million for a safe passive rank on an amulet's fine. So far you have to pay over $1 billion, and I mean that's paying $1 billion for it having the actual stat you have on it, right? So that's the thing. You can pay 50 million and it will potentially not give you a good item, or it could give you a great item, just not good for your build, and you can sell it for a lot, right? They need to bring in something that isn't that allows people to trade better, instead of a third-party site that you have to go to in order to trade your gear. But they'll eventually get there. We'll see. But yeah, so let's go back to those boon offerings real quick. So yeah, you've got the Tribute of Harmony. It increases, it guarantees runes as well, so you can use a rune early because you get more anyways. So you can use a rune early because you're going to get more anyways. What do you mean, Stevo? Because this doesn't make it so you have to spend runes. You get a ton of runes from doing this. And also, this is the one thing I wanted to point out as well. See how it says found randomly in Sanctuary? The other ones, if you look at them, like the Tribute of Radiance down there and the unique one, it says found rarely from Whisper Caches, not just in Sanctuary. So these ones you can find wherever. Those ones you can only find from Whisper Caches. So kind of like PoE has. They have their own trading website. It's antiquated and terrible, but at least they have it, I suppose, much like most of PoE, honestly. That's funny. Like, again, yeah, but it's directly linked to the site, right? So you could just link that to some sort of, like, I guess, network to have people, and whenever somebody comments on it or asks about it or wants to buy it or something like that, then it goes, it's like a direct in-game ping, right? Like, hey, I'm interested in your item. You don't have to sit there with a web page open, constantly scroll through it, refresh it, all that shit. So if you have low level armor, it doesn't matter if I put a Vex in it because these are guaranteed. Yeah, no, you can put runes in whenever you get them. It's just if you get them, right? Because they're still going to have their rarities to them, but these are just guaranteed runes. But that one, also notice, it says usable in torment, only usable in torment difficulties. So the last three are only usable in torment difficulties. The blue one is usable in all difficulty levels. And then they also had the caveat for the 2 on the end where you are only able to get paid out if you are the one that tribute it. Now they have, this is just a visual. They said they have extra keys as well that account for group play as well. So you're not getting left out there. It's probably a diminished amount. So that way there's like the time penalty is probably more. The starting time is probably left the same, but the like reward upgrades are probably lesser or something. I don't know. There's going to be some sort of payoff difference if you go into it with a group versus if you use these keys in a solo setting. So they kind of adjusted fire for solo gameplay and group gameplay, but not making it like the pit used to be where people would get a quarter of the rewards that somebody got, or when somebody got full rewards for paying the entrance to the pit. So there is that trade-off now, which I think is a good balance. Button on website's item listing will directly message the player message, "Hey turtle fucker, I'm interested in your item built of stolen nipples, and I'm offering your asking price of 3 orphan fingers. Are you available to trade?" Exactly, that would be great, right? And if people get back to you, sweet. If they don't, their loss, right? Or your loss, I don't know. Really kind of just depends. But that is that. The one thing that I really enjoyed was seeing this portal prankster here, and when he mentioned the Benny Hill, all I could hear was the Benny Hill theme song playing in my head while he was chasing him around. I thought that fit perfectly. That's why I was kind of giggling about that. But I do like this. It's incentivizing plus bonus rewards, right? So I like that these are random occurrence and they're specific to Vessel of Hatred. You do not, and to Kuras Undercity, right? Like, you're not going to get into Kuras Undercity if you don't have Vessel of Hatred, and if you don't have that, you're missing out on these goblins. So, that being said, another reason to buy the expansion. Just the list growing further and further and further, right? So, as it stands right now, we have the Spiritborn with all of its balance changes that we've already gotten. We have to look over again just to get more inundated with the class. Kuras Undercity, which is just a really great way for target farming gear, leveling up alts or your current character, and what is it? Opportunistic content that allows for efficient progress towards specific goals as opportunities arise, because you can manipulate it to your specific wants and needs. Again, the bargains, there was a massive list of bargains there. I don't know if we can potentially see it here before they start this event really quick. So back it up a little bit. So yeah, right here. So we see all of these other ones like skill ranks. You pay 50 million gold for passive ranks. And again, that means like skill ranks. Like this would be like having a Shaco or something. To say Shaco, like say your gloves need +3 to rake or spirit feathers or eagle feathers or whatever you're trying to use. Let's say you need those skill ranks on a specific piece of gear. Well, guess what? Every piece of gear that gets spit out at the end is going to have legendary amulets, or like in this case, passive ranks. Legendary amulets will always possess at least one passive rank affix, meaning it could roll more than one. It's just up to the luck for you, right? But then also you have the fact you can get core stats on it, primary resource resistances, whether or not they're offensive legendaries with the aspects that roll on them, defensive legendaries, utility legendaries, blah, 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 blah. The list goes down and keeps on going, right? So they scroll it down here. And you can see like chaotic unique, spending obols, more weapons, more armor, more jewelry. You spend all of these items. So these bargains come with a cost, right? If you complete the dungeon under these specific, under these specific asks, you get all of these things that spit out at you at the end, essentially. So more armor, more weapons, more jewelry, chaotic uniques. Maybe there's a chance for uniques or whatever. And you get to choose that bargain to go in with. So you get, in this case, they're spending 50 million gold for an affix for a passive to drop on an amulet, which we all know how important passives on amulets are, minus a couple of builds that really depend on unique amulets. So in this case, it kind of sucks. It's a meh function, but it is really, really good. So there is that to think about and focus on. As far as the rest of it goes, both incentivizing for solo and team gameplay, again, whisper caches are going to be massively important. TBD when this is actually unlockable, because if it is incentivizing to do the campaign up to this point, blast this for leveling when it comes to season starts, it might be worth it to do this and detract 5-10 minutes, I'd say anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes out of your speed run to go and do this, because if in that time you're collecting things through the campaign or doing whatever you are doing to get to this point, that maybe it's worth it. I don't know. We'll see. Something to test out, something to look at. There's probably going to be videos on like, this is how to get here as quickly as possible, blah, blah, whatever, right? So things that we don't have access to right now, but we'll get access to in the next couple of days when the embargo lifts and we can see things like that, right? So we'll find out. Dark Citadel, again, the fact that they are advertising a boosted, not a boosted reward, but a more like situational reward where if you complete it at its hardest pinnacle content, you get a reward for doing that is both cosmetic and shows your attempts. That is amazing to me and is something to chase. And it's something that you get rewarded for purely based off of your skill, not something that somebody paid for. Like, you could be paid to get carried through, right? Like, and this is just an example, but somebody comes into chat and we're doing an event where we help people get through and then they pay subs because we help them through, right? Or whatever. Cool. Didn't have to do that, but appreciate you. You support the channel and you do this, you do that, or whatever, right? So the mount looks great. It gives me Panther vibes, Skeletor's mount from He-Man, giving me kind of the mount vibes from that. Just the way that it's kind of purple and all that jazz. So it's got really cool flavor to it, I think. And the skins themselves look awesome. But Dark Citadel looks fun. It is going to be, I think, once you have a good group and or just two people, the other two people could suck. Again, that's what the carries are going to be for. But you have one other person that knows the mechanics, knows what they're doing, knows how to dive in, and they can obliterate the content on T4 regardless of what happens. I think that that's going to be fun and interesting to see. Mercenaries being able to boost your solo gameplay as well as your group gameplay through reinforcements. The fact that there will be opportunity to do something whenever you're playing with your friends and still get value out of your mercenaries, unlike how D3 was, where if mercenaries were with you solo in team play, mercenaries weren't even there at all. Mercenaries were always with you in Diablo 2, but they definitely attributed to a lot of your power or your sustainability depending on what's happening, right? But D3, it was solo or nothing. So seeing how that they're actually useful, seeing how there's some other things that involve their gameplay, I still stand by some of the mercs might be useless in certain aspects for a lot of different classes. Hardcore is probably not going to pull
Thanks
away.
For the follow.
Hey, welcome
Joe
to
F from 78 is now following.
I don't see a lot of people, I guess, moving moving into the into hardcore using other mercenaries besides Rahir because of his utility of keeping people alive. I think that's one thing that's going to be kind of, I guess, offsetting. I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to still play some hardcore as well. We're going to do all the Spearborn stuff both on softcore and hardcore with a big focus on softcore, but still wanting to play the hardcore content because there are content creators out there, of course, that I would love to play with that only do hardcore. So that is mercenaries, as well as like the bartering and rapport, the fact that you can use pale marks to get a lot of materials, whether or not it's like we've seen boss mats. Like let me scroll back over to this, but like let's see if we can get it to respawn here. But like, so you get resource aspect caches, which is super awesome. You get salvage material caches. Right here, this is a big one. You get a masterworking cache, utility aspect cache, boss summoning cache. Like, bro, come on, that's awesome. And it's just for pale marks. Like this guy sitting on 5,000 pale marks. And granted, whenever he buys a cache, like we scroll forward a little bit here, he buys a cache and it makes something disappear. I can't remember if he buys something here, if he buys something on the next one. Yeah, so he buys that defensive cache and it removes it from that list. So you can only buy something once, but you still buy it and you get that reward, right? So I mean, for the low price of seemingly not seeing anything in this list above like 50. And I mean, I'm trying to scan as quickly as I can through all of this stuff. You get a decent amount of reward for just being able to like look through here. You see a good weapon you want, boom, snag it. You see a cache that you want, boom, take it. Like something that comes with, like, these aspect caches might have something, but as you see, when they pop open this cache, a ton of items fall out, and some of them with greater affixes on them. So I think it's absolutely worth it. And I think moving into the actual game, it's another source of gear. It's another source of just boosting up your character, because again, let's say you're just down those aspects, or they don't have the max aspect power on it and you just cannot find something. Well, guess what? You see an item that literally has that aspect on it and it has a max power. Buy that bitch, salvage it, boom. Even if the item itself sucks, you still get the max aspect on something. So there's venues for so many different places for loot. But again, you only get this with the expansion. So you will have to find everything on your own, regardless of whatever you do. Even if like the bonus for like gambling gives you another item, cool, you're still gambling. This is still a gamble in the sense that you have to refresh every page. You get, like they said, one free refresh per day, and you still get the gear that like it shows up. You can still buy the things that are on the first page. Don't like it, refresh it for free, see what's on the next page. If there's nothing there that you want or nothing that fits what your purposes or what you're seeking, then I also love looking at this. Why does he have one skull in his gear? It's kind of funny. But the fact that ancestral gear is only socketable by what was it called? I'll think of it in about 5 seconds. Scattered prisms. But you can socket all the other gear for just regular old crafting materials. I think that's a good move. It incentivizes you to save those for gear that you really want to get sockets. Like jewelry, I feel like are always guaranteed going to get sockets because of how important they are for survivability. Now, you also have the thing where it's like, oh, well, I don't have an ancestral unique of this item, but I still want a rune word in it, so I want my sockets in there. So you just slap some sockets in there, especially since these are or this is the only non-ancestral that wouldn't cost 2 sockets or whatever, right? But the fact that we can upgrade these to level 8, the fact that we can do what is it called? So the fact that we can upgrade these to level 8, the fact that we can put 2 aspects on ancestral uniques is great. Warcry on any class is going to be lit. So they actually did some changes to the rune words themselves as well. And we'll get into all of the changes. We're actually going to go through the patch notes now because I don't really care to watch the Q&A. I don't mind watching the Q&A and stuff, but it's not like something that mega intrigues me because I usually just answer questions that people already asked and or like, what about this? Not too worried about that. Ramaladni's gifts was a clutch add to D3 way back then. Oh yeah, being able to slam sockets and stuff. I absolutely agree with that. But we don't need that up anymore. Again, I took a bunch of notes, just basically chunking out everything that we got to see there. So I'm curious to see. Again, they said like you can access Penitent in level 1. It did not look like the guy got absolutely obliterated. He just sat there and took all the damage, didn't use any of his utility, and didn't do any damage either. So we'll see what happens. What do you think about the rune changes? We're going to get into all of them. For the few that we did see when it came back to them removing some, increasing the offering, you get no berserking unless you're barb, so you get the baseline war cry. I think that's fine. The petrify on druid I think is perfect. It makes it so it's less of a makes it less dependent on it being the only thing that you put in your build. Plus, I mean, it's a resource thing, so you get a stun and a resource back. Not bad. But then boosting the damage of a lot of them and all of that jazz, I do like the direction that they're moving. It feels good. But on that note, let's move into the patch notes here and we'll start going through this. But these are, so we're going to go through 2.1s. 2.01 patch notes. So these are updates from the PTR. The gold costs for masterworking have been reduced by 1/3. Masterworking materials now drop from more sources inside nightmare dungeons, and literally everything drops. Local events, treasure goblins, butcher, breakable objects, miscellaneous interactive objects such as ambient corpses, normal chests, resplendent chests, everything in Nightmare Dungeons drop masterworking mats now, so GG's. Non-ancestral legendaries, like I said, can be masterworked up to 8 times and have 2 tempering affixes on them. Before, you can only masterwork it to level 4 and only have 1 temper on it. So now the change is going to still make you more powerful, let your builds still be strong, and not feel like they're gated behind a lot of stuff. So needs more Jaweth Burr, in my opinion. I agree. Material cost for masterworking at lower ranks has been adjusted. That's good. It was way too expensive, and it was just weird in doing the PTR. So knowing that the gold cost has been reduced and the masterworking material cost has been reduced is definitely nice. I hope that it doesn't cost 2,500 Obdicite on the final tier of upgrading, but if they make all the other tiers lower, I guess that's not the worst, but we'll see. 50 additional pit tiers have been introduced, so you get to 150 instead of 100. So they have definitely done some internal scaling to see that you can get very high, and also gives you something to really go for, bringing reminiscent of D4 S6 back with 150. Bonus tiers unlock from 3 to 5, which is really nice because it felt weird doing 3 tiers when you just did 20 in like a row and stuff. So quick, you have a go, man. Thank you for being here. The loot updates, though, lower level monsters now drop more items and left crafting materials. Overall loot quality dropped by Hellborn has been increased. There's a chance to receive at least 1 legendary item with a chance to receive 1 to 2 more. Treasure Goblins and the Butcher has been improved. Butcher will always drop at least 1 legendary item. Will always drop the Butcher's Cleaver unique weapon, which is so funny to me. And Treasure Goblins will always drop at least 1 legendary item. World Boss loot now scales with higher Torment tiers, which is good. They needed to be... not to say they needed to be a loot pinata, but they needed to be a little bit more for the effort that's put into them on higher tiers. So I think that that's good. Adjusted the drop rates of mythic unique items from ladder bosses to compensate for being guaranteed ancestral quality. I'm okay with that. They are already going to be super powerful, and that is just nice. Duriel and Andariel do not guarantee a mythic item drop, but their chances to drop a mythic item is twice as high as other tormented bosses. I'm cool with that too. That's awesome. More incentivization to go chase Duriel and Andariel for better chances at those uber uniques versus like, I need this item from this boss, but it's not one of those, but I still have a chance to get an uber unique. That's cool. Duriel and Andariel was supposed to be the peak uber bosses. They were supposed to be the uber bosses, right? So now that they have that kind of scaling difference on uber uniques, I appreciate that. And it makes it more incentivizing, right? So starting in Torment Difficulty 1, only legendary and unique items can drop. Any normal magic and rare items get auto-salvaged. And then developer note for the rune words and sockets. Love the enthusiasm about combining runes, but we understand many would prefer the optimal combinations of rune words to have bonuses other than scaling damage stats. Our original approach was to create a journey where both of runes, ritual and invocation, would eventually lead to a legendary rune becoming the most potent, but in practice has led to a handful of combinations being favored. Now the gap in power between rarity tiers for runes of invocation and ritual will be much smaller, and runes that provide utility will be more potent than runes that only provide damage across all rarity tiers. Additionally, to make sub-power runes competitive, the rune type will deal more than other types found in D4 depending on the amount of utility they provide. So lift, don't walk or evade, stand still for 3 seconds. Now it stands still while fighting for 0.3 seconds. FEO has reduced the cooldown to 10 seconds. Vex has increased the offering from 400 to 1,000. That's crazy. Especially since they said that kind of adding all ranks wasn't as useful as multiplicative damage. So I'm kind of hoping, I'm kind of seeing like a season 4, I believe, situation happening where it doesn't matter how many ranks you add to something, it still will be a multiplicative to your damage based off of the multiplier that the skill is itself. But when they said that the main stat wasn't going to be as impactful to your damage, and now like all skills kind of seemingly aren't as impactful to your damage, that makes me kind of worried. Not even worried, it just makes it so that builds are kind of all going to be like shoved into this like category, right? Of just like, all you need to focus as many damage types as possible and bring back like season 1 kind of stuff where it was get as many buckets as you can kind of thing. So I kind of hope that that's not the direction it's moving. I hope that they've made damage kind of more versatile across the board so that way you aren't like spreading yourself like butter over bread. Like hopefully it's just a big old glob on one part and you're like, I want the left side of the piece of toast, right? I want to invest into crit strike damage as much as I possibly can with a guarantee on vulnerable so I get that 1.2 multiplier, right? I hope that's the case. I think putting it from 400 to 1,000 like was kind of a crazy jump, but some of the other things do have a increased capability of making resource back or making this offering, right? So 1,000 might have been a little bit too much of a jump, especially since it's only a +3 to all skills, and I know they increased the duration of it, but I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. It'll be something to mess around with because it is still +3 to skills, but it is for only a certain duration, and unless you're really constantly proccing this, then you're not really ever getting that out. So depending on the changes that they've made, we'll see. But the Spiritborn offering was reduced, the concealment was reduced, teleport was reduced, evade refresh removed, and the offering was reduced from 400 to 50. So that's good. Earthen Bulwark, this was a change that needed to happen. Why the hell somebody thought 800 was a good idea? It makes no sense to me, but that's a good change. That is incentivizing for a barrier if your class doesn't offer one, or if you're looking for an extra barrier, or you don't want to take an ability that gives you a barrier because now you can scale into more damage because you get barrier from your utility. Who knows? Something to theory craft, something to work around. More barrier equals good. More barrier equals survival. Petrify no longer gives critical strike damage, instead grants resource. Perfect. Especially because it's 100%, it's 100 resource. So realistically, you're looking at a full resource bar every single time this goes off, unless you've really like pumped something in like a payback Spiritborn or a Bone Spirit Necromancer, right? So like unless you're really pushing the cap of your resource through the roof, this is a really good way to get a lot of your resource back and everything like that, right? So I like that. What else? Warcry, its offering was increased and it uses base Warcry instead of enhanced Warcry. Perfectly fine. Instead of giving everybody Berserk and kind of tearing like making itself the meta, I'm glad that they offer something that allows for utility gains in the game, right? You still get a damage increase, you just don't get a mega damage increase, right? And get Berserking, which offers attack speed increase, movement speed increase, all this other stuff, right? So I like that it's not necessary anymore. It's not Ohm and Yom and that's it. Now you actually have some choices here, right? Like Abhorrent Iron Maiden, and now deals 300% of base damage. I'd like to see what it went off of before, but that's not bad. The stun grenades deal from 20 to 260%, which is a crazy jump. Spiritborn's Pestilent Swarm is increased from 100 to 150, so that's not bad. The critical overpower, it being 900, that's kind of crazy, but again, if there's something in here that we get that really makes this not that big of a change, but still allows us to destroy stuff. Again, I didn't really use Zan, but the fact that it's a critical overpower guarantee, it's not bad to think about, but we'll see. Cooldown reduction reduced from 0.25 to 1.1, so that's interesting. They didn't adjust the cost, but they did reduce the cooldown reduction. So that's kind of sucky, but we'll see. They could have left that, I think, because there were some abilities that didn't really pull into this heavily and could benefit from a second off versus a 1/10 of a second off, or a 1/4 of a second off versus a 1/10 of a second. So that kind of seems like an interesting change, but we'll see. Again, it depends on how much resource, because these do have overflow, right? So this might be 0.25 seconds, but let's say you get something that generates 1,000 offering, and this goes from a 1 second off to like 10 seconds off. So they had to rein it in because it was getting too much based off of the offering generation increase that we got. So maybe it's not that bad. In looking at it, you're like, womp womp. But in reality, you're looking at it like, okay, well, maybe the changes they did to how much offering we generate is actually massively increased. So there's that as well, right? We went over Spirit Wolves during the thing, but they're going to do more damage and the AI is going to engage in combat faster. Cooldown reduction reduced from 2 to 4 seconds. Again, the ultimate cooldown reduction, I guess it's okay. Again, assuming that the, assuming that the offering is increased, then this is just fine. Challenging Shout reduced, which is perfect, and the rune duration, that's okay. Ono, Met, and Ka were removed, and Ohm, Thul, Vex, Lum, Ja, and Tal had their fucking D2 predecessor icons updated. Thank God. I don't know who was sitting down like, we need to come up with new icons for these things that have already existed in this game for 20 goddamn years. Thank goodness. Like that makes me happy, honestly. It's not super important, but like it already existed, so is it really that hard to take the art and just slap it on there and be like, ta-da, we did it. It's got bright shiny colors on it. There you go. Thank you. That's all I can say to that. Jeweler accessible at level 1. Chip gems can now be crafted at level 1. Gem fragments now start dropping at level 5. And socketing only requires scattered prisms for ancestral items. Big change. Scattered prisms will no longer drop prior to playing tormented difficulty. So now there's an incentivization to get into the tormented difficulties and push that to get these scattered prisms. So that's nice. Experience rewards from Helltide and Whisper caches are increased and they scale with difficulty. So if you're doing penitent difficulty and you get a Whisper cache completed, you're going to get more experience than somebody running on normal, hard, expert, whatever it may be. You'll be getting more experience for your efforts, which may be incentivizing. We shall see. We don't know how difficult Penitent is because the showcase that we got inside of the what is it called? Inside of the showcase, the campfire, it was the poorest excuse to show us like Penitent. Like the guy didn't go in and get one shot. He stood there for like 8 seconds straight, not reacting to anything, and was able to eat a ton of damage. So like the only playoff is it going to hurt? Are we going to hurt anything because we're just not doing any damage to them? Is it going to take 25 minutes to kill one thing? Or like, I mean, clearly we just saw somebody go in at like level nothing. I mean, they had 200 Paragon, but they didn't have any gear on. So it's probably a fresh character anyways. I don't know. Either way, they took that character in there. It just stood there. It didn't die. It died after like 8 seconds of just straight up tanking everything. But like, they didn't do anything. They didn't try to like adjust fire for anything. They didn't show anything besides look how dangerous it is, and then stood there and did nothing and then died. And it's like, oh yeah, of course you died. You just did nothing. So we'll see what that entails and change. Thank you for the water crow. So yeah, rewards for completing experience or for completing strongholds has been adjusted, which is perfect. We already talked about that, which it has a good potential to still knock out the last levels of your leveling journey. So we'll see how that goes. Experience rewards from renown tiers 1 and 2 have been flat or changed to flat value, so players don't feel like they need to wait until higher difficulties to cash them in, which is perfect. Paragon boards, glyph scaling values have been reduced by 50%. Rare and magic nodes that provide additive damage have been increased by 100%. So our additive damage buckets are getting increased by even more. I don't know how I feel about that. But I guess it's important and I'm okay with it. It's still making them important to chase, which is another thing. But that's okay. Resistance for a single element. Okay, so single resist nodes have been converted to a bonus to maximum resist for a single element. Single resist is 10%, max single resist is 3%. Recuperate rare node potion healing has been changed to max life, and life per second increased by double. Armor nodes increased by 50%. Slayer potion healing changed to max life, so they got rid of potion healing, changed it to max life on a lot of these. Impairment resistance increased by 50%. Damage over time reduction changed to dodge chance. Suffuse resistance, damage over time reduction changed to damage reduction. That's nice. Sources of damage reduction while fortified increased by 2.25 multiplicative. And healing received increased by 1.5 multiplicative. That, honestly, not bad Paragon changes. And what was it? The base, so they didn't say it here necessarily, but the base damage reduction has been strengthened overall. And that's going to make Spiritborns that go into Gorilla builds even more tanky. So I wonder if they accounted for that. We'll see. We have to dive into the Spiritborn skill tree and items and stuff on Maxwell and see if they've updated them after this conversation. So, but Barbarian, Hemorrhages, Lacerator, physical damage changed to vulnerable damage. So Blood Rage, Craving. Damage to elites change the damage while berserking. Carnage. So these are glyphs, I believe. Glyphs into power, I believe. Carnage, Berserker, damage elites change to critical strike damage, and Enrage is critical strike chance. Decimator, Destroyer change to overpower damage, and Pillage now applies to armor instead of vulnerable damage. Interesting. Flawless Technique, Havoc changed to Nimble. Weapons Master, Nimble bonus now applies to attack speed instead of phys damage. Strength required changed to Dex. Iron Strength, Elite damage changed to Max Fury. Hunter Killer, damage to elites changed to Fury on kill. Movement speed after killing elites increased from 14 to 20%. Force of Nature, Raw Might, physical damage changed to close damage to close enemies. Stat threshold required to unlock bonus change from Dex to Willpower. Interesting. No changes yet. Okay, we'll give it a couple of days and we'll see what happens, because they'll probably change it with the lifting of the embargo. So we'll check it in a couple of days and we'll see what happens there. Alloyed, Earthquake duration reduced from 45 to 10%. Armor changed to 10% Dust Devil size. Interesting. Druid's Thunderstruck, concentrated elite damage changed to damage to close enemies. Deluge, critical strike damage changed to damage to distant. And actually, these two feed into the Thunderstruck legendary node. So that's actually great. That's a great change and helps you reduce the amount of stats you need to shove on your gear, because you get some of it in your Paragon. So that's actually a good change. Tempest, critical strike damage changed to critical strike chance. Earth and Devastation, Earthen Power changed to earth damage. That's great. Oppress, it changed to critical strike damage. Again, these are just additive buckets, but they're still powerful. Percent of armor while werebearer form changed to just armor percentage. That's nice. Battlesworn High, damage to elites changed to plus life. Heightened Malice, poison condition changed to denial. Toxic Bane changed to all damage. Overturn changed to recuperate. Inner Beast, Determination changed to all damage. Devastation changed to dot damage. Superiority bonus now applies to max life instead of damage to crowd controlled. Damage to crowd control changed to lucky hit. Ancestral Guidance, Spiritual Power changed to basic attack speed. Okay. And Natural Attunement changed to bonus resource regen, or basis resource gen. This is nice that it's basic attack speed, because basic attack damage is just, again, it's a little additive bucket, but if you can get faster, more attack speeds off, that honestly is not a bad change, depending on how big it is, of course. Frosty, companion cooldown reduced from 2.5, or increased from 2.5 to 3, so that's not bad. Necromancer, they got as many changes as this. So Hulking Monstrosity, Flesh Horror, Minion Resistance to all elements changed to just all res. Golem changed to armor. Summon damage changed to Golem life percentage. Flesh Eater changed to corpse attack speed. That's interesting. Scent of Death, Ruin changes to fused resistance. You scared the shit out of me. I'm gonna just turn that off. Let's see. Corrective changed to restorative. Seethe, damage replaced with damage to healthy. Interesting. Bone Graft, Splinter damage changed to crit damage. That's nice. Calcify changed to suffused resistance. Blood begets blood. Empowered blood damage. Orb healing has been doubled. Blood damage or orb damage changed to blood damage. Okay, so more additive damage towards blood instead of being conditional. So that's not bad. I keep an eye on it. Sounds good, Crows. Yeah, no, and definitely, if we're not live or we're not doing anything, we're not talking about Diablo, feel free to shoot me a DM on that, so that way we can know when it's up and available, and I can start getting back, or we can start getting back to the theory crafting, right? Because until that gets updated, I don't want to mess with anything, especially after the changes we saw in the campfire. Damage while fortified, healing received. So I'm going to skip past all of these. If they intrigue you, by all means, the patch notes will be included both in commands on my stream and in the YouTube video that this is going to be. So if y'all are interested or trying to track down those links or anything like that, by all means, you can find them there. But again, we're just going to kind of skim through these. Miscellaneous audio for mythic uniques dropping takes priority over other sounds. That's good. Health values for monsters and dungeons has been increased to have less of a jump between them, and the boss to smoothen the transition between encounters. Super elite life increased by 50%, elite life increased by 25%, standard monster life increased by 11%. So dungeons might actually scarily not be the move. They still probably will be, because we'll still be doing enough damage. But if there's no change in the boss life, but the mob's lives are increased a little bit, we'll see. Especially in group play, everybody's going to have to be consistently blasting. So that's going to be a thing we'll have to see. Scrolls of Restoration will be acquirable through the season journey. Penitent difficulty is now unlocked upon Diablo 4's base campaign completion. This includes using the skip campaign feature. The formula for calculating damage reduction from armor has been adjusted to grant higher amounts of damage reduction at lower armor amounts than before. Additionally, lower level items will have higher amounts of armor than before. Intensity scaling has been moved to torment difficulties 1 through 4. Scaling has been adjusted to be more noticeable. Intensity causes monster to move faster, their cooldowns to recharge faster, and they're better at aiming projectile attacks. The 2 times increase applied to main stat contribution to skill has been reverted to pre-patch 2.0 values. That kind of sucks, but I understand why, because the power scaling was definitely going crazy, so we'll see how it all kind of works out. With the big stats coming to Paragon, I don't think that there will be much of a change to the early game, because it was the late game. Like when we were doing our mathematics on the Spiritborn, we definitely saw how impactful even just 100 skill points were to something, right? Our 100 main stat points were to our skill damage. So knowing that that is going to get reverted back down, and this is probably why Maxwell's not updated yet. They have to do a lot of internal programming to get everything back down to kind of the way that it was, as far as like UI stuff goes, but also like all the gear updates and things that we're getting. That is something else to take into account. But bug fixes, I'm not too worried about bug fixes, especially since all of these kind of entail characters that we're not going to be playing. And we'll know about big bonuses and stuff like that come into play, so we'll see. But fix an issue, but items and tempering, fix an issue where several legendary aspect values were lower than intended. Air Perdition's bonus damage against angels and demons is multiplicative instead of additive. Everybody knew that. At least I would hope everybody knew that, so that way they're not disappointed when they go into Season 6 / Vessel of Hatred and they find Air of Perdition. They're like, why isn't this as strong as it was in the PTR? That would be why, is because it's now an additive damage multiplier just to add to your buckets versus multiplicative, where it was literally like, what was that, a 3 times multiplier to your damage just from the helm alone. So yeah, it was a crazy multiplier, or yeah, a 3 times multiplier. So it's better that it's additive, because now it's not guaranteed the best in slot all the time, period, because it said so. Fix an issue where ancestral legendary items were dropping in Torment difficulty 4 Nightmare dungeons. Good. Fix an issue where Whisper casters dropped items with lower item power than expected at higher levels. That's good. Fix an issue where the Elemental Surge tempering recipe was restricted to expert difficulty instead of just restricted by level. Tempering was immediately accessible at level 1 on new accounts instead of locking at 15. And that's another thing. Tempering won't unlock until we're 15, so I don't know if we'll be able to learn recipes before then, but if they still drop before then, that'd be great. Hey, LT, what's up, girl? Fix an issue where fix an issue where legacy items migrated from characters created before Season of Hatred were capped at item power 520 instead of 540. Fix several instances where Fist of Fate was not properly adjusting damage with its power. So that's good that Fist of Fate got updated, because that's going to be hugely important to a lot of builds come the next season. Fix an issue where the tooltip for armor was not green when armor capped. That's good. Seaside Descent Dungeon cannot be completed when the gate release defeating 2 average captains. Nightmare Dungeon sigil fixes were missing descriptions. That's good. Fix an issue where required amounts of boss summoning items were inaccurately displayed in tooltips. That's also good. Fix an issue where the Eliminator glyph was missing its additional threshold bonus. Also good. Fixed multiple instances where glyph descriptions were inaccurate, where the tutorial quest from Torment difficulties could keep reappearing each time a pit tier was completed. That's also good. Fixed an issue where other pieces of equipment could appear on the character in unexpected ways, such as pants floating in front of the character. Side quests, Act 1, the Trousers from Hell completed. That's funny. Game updates, hybrid targeting, a new feature that allows for proximity selection of interactables to be used when mouse movement is disabled. This is meant to assist with item selection instances where cursor targeting could prove challenging. I think that mostly helps with controllers, because I know a lot of people were getting items that dropped on top of like, that dropped on top of altars when resummoning bosses. So I think that gives them a way of picking up those items without constantly clicking on the altar. So I think that's what that change is for. But again, it says mouse movement, but even more so, like when you're moving your character around with the cursor, you still have a selection kind of bubble that moves around. So I'm hoping that that kind of changes that for controller peeps. The drop quantity of gem fragments is now increases as you ascend difficulties. New gem tier grand gems requires 100,000 gem fragments, 30 forgotten souls, and 10 million gold to craft. It's kind of crazy, but okay. excuse me, Grand, not Grant. Grand provides a 50% increase in power from the previous tier Royal. Some gem effects have been reworked. Ruby equals strength now. Amethyst equals barrier generation. Diamond equals all stats. Many gem stat bonuses have been adjusted to better reflect patch 2.0 numbers. Gem stat updates starting with chipped, ending with grand. So it goes 25 to 150, 2 to 12, 8 to 50, and 4 to 15. So that's not bad. All classes, let's look at the mythic uniques. Nothing changed here. It's inherent additive damage. But still another multiplier of your damage. You're still getting a 1.6 multiplier damage from here, as well as additive damage to your bucket of additive stats. So that's something to take into effect too. So inherent affixes. So this is exactly the same. It's just if you haven't dealt damage in the last 2 seconds, you gain stealth and 40% movement speed. GG's. Shattered Vow. Enemies affected by more dot damage than remaining life are executed. I don't know why that's highlighted, because that's what I thought it was, but this, I believe, this is a barbarian unique. You tried using it on some classes, it just didn't work. Like the druid, you were able to get it on. It just this attack speed while berserking didn't really do much. Then the dot just didn't feel like it was too much of an additive thing. So I think this unique is going to need more change, unless of course your additive buckets are going to be more important than anything we've encountered thus far. And it might be even more useful on a spiritborn than a druid or a barb. Or I should say on a druid, on a barbarian, just because you get the attack speed while berserking and a chance to become berserking. I mean, this is just going to help with like bleed builds. So that's something to take into consideration. Aspect of assistance, your reinforcement cooldown is reduced by up to 33% after casting your ultimate skill, Call Your Mercenary, for reinforcement. Because this aspect is related to mercenaries, it is exclusive to Vessel of Hatred. So Vessel of Hatred is getting a guaranteed generic utility aspect. So that's GG's. Tempering, these are all the same from the PTR. Nothing's changed. Barbarian's Mighty Throw got boosted with a lucky hit chance increased. Each pulse generates max life as a barrier for 5 seconds, so they got kind of balanced out. Barb skills passive didn't get changed. None of those got changed. The Ugly Bastard Helm got all res removed off of it. And now it's Wrath of Berserker cooldown, chance to deal fire damage, prolific fury, and aggressive resistance. So that's not bad. And then they boosted the increased fire damage up as well, so that's not bad. I kind of wish they put the previous stat in here, but that's okay. Steel Grasp is doing more damage as physical. That's good. Offering Steel Grasp and Iron Maelstrom more utility, and it's a huge multiplier of its damage. So let's see. Charge gains an additional charge, blah, blah, blah. Mighty Throw deals increased damage, hurls another 2 weapons. None of those aspects changed. Raw Might, Rare Node got changed. Base skill, Gather Stones, detonating them they raised the damage of Stone Burst. And we didn't see, like they said there were some interaction problems and stuff, but I didn't see any like bug fixes for Stone Burst, so Stone Burst might still be like massively OP at the beginning. This got a little bit of a boost in damage for druids, companions. Shred's dash attack, that hopefully they got the bug on that fixed, because I know Shred just was not doing anything during the PTR. Ravens now deal lightning damage, which is awesome. They need to make the unique for the pants change for that, but that's a Ugly Bastard Helm, not Ugly Bastard Helm. Ugly Bastard Helm. So yeah, Apex, companion damage and willpower, companion damage versus lucky hit chance, lucky hit or lucky wins, lucky hit chance and vulnerable damage, and eminence damage reduction from elite and max life. Not bad. Soul Rift didn't get any changes. Affliction didn't get any changes. Unmaker got chance for Soul Rift to deal double damage on it. Paragon resistant all res and armor and damage control skills. Dance of Knives got a damage boost. And if they didn't change the way that it mechanically functions, then it's going to be exactly how we got to play with it. So that'll be cool. I really liked it. It was a lot of fun, but we'll see what happens. You put it on and become an ugly bastard. Indeed. Mobility, cooldown reduction, damage to elites and decks, damage to healthy enemies and max life, subterfuge cooldown reduction. Those are pretty good. Not like barbs were ugly bastards to begin with. Hey man, You back off my red-headed Barb, all right? She's a cutie, and she'll crush your skull with her friggin' hands. Like, I don't know what it is. The red-headed female body type of the barbarian. Beautiful. Definitely not, like, super infatuated with the redheads anyways. Like, not at all. Sorks didn't really seem to see any huge change, at least in these patch notes. They don't see some huge changes. Their nodes were renamed. All right, balance updates for the game difficulties. Monster HP was increased by 25%. Health and damage reduced for low-level elites. Unique elites, super elites, minion, and boss enemies have had their health reduced. Max level super elite health increased by 50%. Max level health increased by 20. Their damage has been equalized, and now like you're not going to get just one shot out of everything. Orby, yes, exactly. Things I would do to that beard. Paragon nodes now give increased damage to healthy enemies, increased from 6.3 to 12.5. So that got a 50% or no, 100% increase. Just shy of 100% increase, like a 95% increase. While you have a barrier active, blah, blah, blah. And Dariel's Visage. Explosions that happen less frequently in extreme situations. Interesting. They buffed the Starlight aspect instead of 200% overheal, and now it's just 120% overheal. That's good. Ground Stomp does more weapon damage. Duration increased and stun increased. Ground Stomp as a brawling skill does 100%, or yeah, it added 100% to the 800, so it's a 900% increased damage. You Were Always Berserk gained 30% physical damage reduction bonus while using Unconstrained. Martial Vigor elite damage reduction increased from 4 to 6%. That's actually crazy, because it's 6% per, so you're getting an 18% raw damage reduction just from elites, and that includes all elites, not just like regular elites. It includes super elites and whatever the other classifications were, I can't remember, and bosses and all that stuff. So you'll get that DR, which is nice. Sundered Ground, so damage increased. Nice. Bold Chieftains. Now whenever you cast a shout skill, its active cooldown is reduced by 30% per nearby enemy to a maximum of 50%. That's nice. That's a good change. It's a good change, but at the same time, it's kind of a crappy change, because like it makes it so that way the less like cooldown reduction you roll on something. So say something has a 12-second cooldown. Now it has and I mean, realistically, this kind of, well, no, actually, this is a good change. And now that I'm talking about it and processing it, it's a great change. So let's say you have 24 seconds on shout, which you normally do with like with a barbarian, right? So war cry or whatever. 24-second cooldown is now a 12-second cooldown if you do this to the max reduction per nearby enemies, right? Instead of 24 seconds, and then you take 6 seconds off that with the cooldowns near you. So now it's at 18 seconds. So this is actually a massive change. I like that a lot. And Bold Chieftains, I'm pretty sure, does go because there's other classes with the shout skill tag on it. So this is actually really great for a lot of different classes besides just Druid. Drink water? I'm on it. Thank you. Whenever you cast a shout skill, we're going fast. Twin Strikes got a big buff in damage. Overkill also seen a big buff in damage. The Ring of Red Fury also saw a massive cap in damage. Hellhammer's fire damage is increased roughly by 33%, and damage per 100 strength has been increased by 5%, so from 20 to 25%. Nothing super crazy going on in the Paragon board. The Dust Devil damage bonus increased 25%. Brawling Skill damage increased to 25%, and guaranteed overpower reduced from 20 to 15 seconds. That's good. I've drank 2 gallons of water. Just my in his chat. Chill out. That's funny. Druid Cataclysm was previously updated to be guaranteed to hit an enemy with its lightning strikes as if one of it in range. Felt better to use. Turned out a bit overpowered. Now we're limiting how frequently Cataclysm's lightning can repeatedly hit the same target. I think they already talked about this in some situation. This was a problem at the beginning of season 5, I think, when they came out with the Mjolnir ring. So the fact that they put Cataclysm as a baseline guarantee and it moved from the ring to that, they've definitely kind of like switched some things around, but we've already known about that. And we already knew about that. Wolf Companion attack speed increased by 15%, just baseline. That's nice. Petrify Now generates 100 spirit in case all enemies in stone, stunning them for 4 seconds. Triggering Petrify through the Yom rune will grant 100 primary resource for your class. Yes. Prime Petrify used to be grants you resource and increase its duration. Now you deal increased critical strike damage to enemies affected by Petrify against bosses. So they just moved this off the baseline of the ability and moved it to Prime. So they switched those, which is perfect. You still get the critical strike damage if you play a druid, so no worries. Storm skill damage bonus increased from 40 to 45%. Fixed an issue where the passive incorrectly triggered from skills other than casts. So that's perfectly fine. They fixed a big bug that was causing it to do a goddamn load of damage instead of actually making it. So that way it was performing correctly. So that's good. Overload Spirit Boon damage increased from 25 to 100%. So lightning damage builds are going to be hopefully leaning into this boon a little bit more. Bolster Spirit Boon, Fortify amount increased from 25 to 50% max life. That's good. Big survivability just from popping a defensive ability. Legendary aspects, Blurred Beast for Shred. Again, Shred stuff needed to get fixed anyways. Pulverize got a little bit of a boost. Stormclaw's aspect got a boost. Again, Shred. Up to 200% weapon damage. The fact that Tectonic Spikes is getting increased up to 200% weapon damage, put that on a two-hander, that's 400% weapon damage. It's crazy. And I did just think about this. They said they wanted to move the aspects of abilities to be the more potent reason why a build is good versus the core stat and main stat and stuff like that. So that is something that I have recognized and I understand. It's just that is definitely something that I'm visually seeing now, especially with something like this where it does 400% weapon damage if put on a two-handed weapon, right? So that's something. Seismic Shift aspect, ranks increased from 17 to 21. Earth Spike bonus, damage increased up to 70%. Ranks of shapeshifting skills while Hurricane is increased from 2 to 5. Crazy. Aspect of Retaliation. This one was huge. Aspect of for core skills based on Fortify is from 25 to 45 to 35 to 75%. And that's crazy. That goes from a 1.45 multiplier at its top to a 1.75 multiplier at its top, which is crazy. Crashstone aspect, Earth skills deal up to another 1.5 or 1.7 multiplier, increased crowd controlled enemies. Just damage. It's not critical strike damage, it's just raw damage more. So that's a multiplier to that, which is great. They still have to be under the condition of crowd controlled, but that's still not bad. Same Bold Chieftains aspect thing. Cooldown reduction replaced with defensive cooldown reduction affix. Maximum health affix replaced with ranks to backlash. Damage increased from 1 to 300 to 2 to 400 weapon damage. Increased per 100 willpower from 30 to 50%. Flesh Render got a big change. Dual Stone Boulders that are rotating your Hurricane on knockback enemies less to allow you to more consistently hit enemies with multiple boulders. Boulders should now more consistently hit enemies that are within your melee range. That's good. Wildheart Hunger shifting. We've seen that bonus in the PTR. Same with this one. Animal Form is core skill guaranteed to overpower and critically strike, dealing a up to a 1.6 multiplier of increased damage. Casting shape-shifting skills reduces this timer or changes 2 seconds if you change to a new animal form. So pulverized druids or any really, I would say any shape-shifting druid is probably going to roll with this ring. This is really good change. That utilizes a core skill, I should say. So shred and pulverize are going to be your big moves. Even you could use stone burst as well, but I found that stone burst didn't work as well in bear form because you were sacrificing the helm to be able to do that, but to be tested for those that are going to run druids and stuff. Tectonic Spike damage increased from 60 to 120 of damage and 50 to 300 weapon damage. Ranks werewolf skills increased from 2 to 5 to 4 to 7. Crazy. Great Staff of the Crone bonus affix changed to hit twice, and it went from 120 to 200 to 170 to 250. Temperings did not change. Paragons changed a little bit, but less for Carnage. Critical strikes with werewolf skills restore 2 spirit and deal 50% increased damage. That is the actual node itself, the legendary power for that board, so they reworked that a little bit. Ancestral Guidance, they boosted it from 30% to 40%, so they made that more captivating and more powerful. It went from a 1.3 multiplier to a 1.4 multiplier. Reap damage reduction increased from 2 to 4 seconds. Enhanced Reap's attack speed duration increased from 3 to 4 seconds, so Reap got a little bit of a buff in terms of survivability. Army of the Dead damage basically doubled, and its cooldown was reduced by 10 seconds, so that's nice. 5 more days till launch. 5 more days till launch. We're getting there, man. We're getting there. Technically, what, in 8 minutes? Well, I guess 8 minutes and then 16 hours. It'll be 4 days and 16 hours to launch. So I'm losing the will to live. I feel that. This was a huge buff for Necromancers. The fact that it's not just attack speed for each active minion, you also get a multiplier of damage per attack speed. That's great, especially for a passive that revolves around minions. This is actually incentivizing now. How's stream so far? It's going good, Sexy. We're talking, we've gone through a lot of information, and it's been great information. I'm hoping I can help some people solidify their opinions based on if they want to get the expansion or not. Book of the Dead, armor conversion to thorns increased from 70 to 200. Crazy. Max life increased from 15 to 20%. Not bad. Minion armor bonus increase. Skeleton healing timer. That's good. That's good. That's good. Shade Mist, damage is attributed to your minions, thus will scale with minions damage bonuses. Shade Mist, Fell Gluttony, and the Damned. These are great. Great changes. Mortar Crux used to be int crit vulnerable hewed. Now it's now it's 100% macabre and corpse damage instead of just 50% inherent damage. So Mortar Crux got a big buff. But it's the stat stayed the same. Chance for corpse explosion to deal double damage. Hewed Flesh also grants a barrier for max life for 4 seconds, and then Hewed Flesh passive. So that's actually a big change for that, and I like it a lot. Black River, the intelligence affix was replaced with chance for corpse damage to deal double damage. This is actually a great change because they said that main stat doesn't make as big of an impact on items. So this sucks that this is gone, but I'm almost curious if it would be better to just add percentage damage that would go into an additive bucket versus 300 main stat on a two-handed weapon or whatever, right? So like, is it going to be worth even having main stat on stuff? Aside from reaching Paragon point requirements and stuff, right? Is it even going to be worth it anymore? Or are we going to try and find like all stats or something? Like, I don't, the meta is shifting, that's for sure. There was a way to build weapons now, and now that main stat isn't as impactful anymore, like, this is going to be big, especially on like how abilities will pump damage out, right? So we'll find out on the 4th. I agree. Greaves of the Empty Tomb gained the Reaper's affix, was replaced with movement speed. The fact that Mendelin is the way that it is, like, I'm doing nothing but Spiritborn stuff, but when we start getting towards the end of the season, I'm really excited to maybe try a minion Necromancer and some other builds as well. But these are going to be great, and I mean, we've got more than enough Spiritborn content to do and cover, so that's going to keep us busy for a while as well, right? So I do think that's going to be important. Lidless Wall replaced with Bone Storm, deal double damage. Mutilator Play, double damage. Chance for Bloodlance to deal double damage. A lot of recipes removed for Thorns. Minions damage per 20% attack speed bonus increased from 30 to 40%. So Cult Leader got a big buff. They really want minions to shine, which I can appreciate after seeing how like shittily they were treated during the PTR, right? Invigorating Strike damage increased from 30 to 35%. The life threshold changed for vulnerable, changed. Energy regeneration for rogues and stuff. That's not bad. Rain of Arrows deals 60% increased damage to crowd control enemies. Imbuement bonus increased from 30 to 50%. Additionally, so let's see, Victimized now is the lucky hit that deals direct damage, has a 50% chance to cause damage, causing 60% damage to them and surrounding enemies. Victimized damage increased by 120% of your damage bonus. The base damage is reduced from 60 to 260 from 80%, and the next effect now happens less frequently, but stores up the damage of instances it would trigger for the next instance. So that's not bad. Mending Obscurity, big healing while in stealth. Icy Alchemists, damage increased. These happen in less in extreme situations. Max stacks increased from 4 to 6, increasing damage bonus from 58 to 87. Okay. Blade Dancer's aspect up to 40 to 60%. Encircling Blades 35 to 55% of Iron Rain. Chance to spawn an Arrow Storm increased from 3555 to 8100. Not bad. Escape Artist cooldown reduced, but also window to dodge attacks was also reduced. But overall, being able to use it more for a shorter amount of time, that's not bad. Word of a Con skill ranks of imbuements increased from 2 to 3 to 4 to 6. Not bad. especially because that could be greater affixed and then smacked on if skill ranks matter. That's a big thing that's going to change. Like, we'll see how important adding more skill ranks is something will mathematically make your skill more powerful versus just trying to dump extra stats into something else. So maybe 1 point in your skill was going to be all that you need. So unless they do something to kind of combat that, we'll see what happens. Rain of Arrows, fire twice affix is now double damage for Rain of Arrows, which isn't bad since it goes in 3 waves anyways. All weapon tempering recipes have been updated with the following stats. Blah, 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 blah. Flurry to hit twice, double damage, ranks to Aftermath. Okay. Persistence temper ranks to Aftermath removed. Paragon, nothing really changed. Nothing changed. Sork's barrier amount now scales with max life instead of base life, which is perfect. That's how it should have been. Nothing here that we didn't already know. Paragon boards, nothing changed for Sork. Okay, Paragon updates. Glyphs can now be leveled up to 100. At level 46, they become legendary and gain several additional benefits. 1 additional major affix, a radius size increase. Upgrading to a legendary level requires gem fragments. Magic glyphs have been removed. Glyph experience has been moved from nightmare dungeons to the pit. The Paragon board cap has been reduced to 4 plus the starting boards. That means you have 5 boards. You just get to choose 4 boards and pick those legendary nodes. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this earlier, I was like, bro, we only get 4 boards. That means we get 3 and the starting board. That's shit. I just wasn't looking at it right. So I'm glad I didn't say anything about it until now and actually read it and looked at it. Max Paragon's now level 300, which is good. Those are fine. They told us where we could find the other stuff. Summoning materials have been adjusted for Varshan. Previously it was 2 to 5 for Malignant Hearts. Now it's 4 Malignant Hearts across the board. And standardized for the following bosses. Gregar is 12 Living Steel. Beast in the Ice is 12 Distilled Fear. And Exquisite Blood is 12 Exquisite Blood. Why they can't just make all of these the same, I don't understand, but it's whatever. It is what it is. I'm not gonna argue it. I'm not gonna fight it. These are what we've got now, right? So yeah, cool. All right. Druid Offering has been moved to the Consumables tab, and the stack has been increased to 999. Up to 3 currencies can be pinned. I love that because I always want to be able to tell how many obols and gold I have without opening the list or whatever, right? Like you can see the obols and gold on it, but now that I can see those currencies, like my pale marks, or I don't know, what other resources will we have? I know there's a currency that'll come with the Dark Citadel and a couple of other ones as well, so that's nice. Describe the description of multiple items that applied if a skill tag was removed or added have been clarified. Okay. The number of available character slots has been increased from 12 to 14. 2 extra character slots. Great. Dodge chance can no longer reach 100% through any means. The dodge chance bonus from the handful of related aspects have been swapped from additive to inverse multiplicative, matching typical dodge chance multipliers or modifiers. Gauntlet will be disabled for season 6. Common items now stop dropping after level 10. The allowance cache that contain items helpful for leveling has been updated. No longer has a level restriction. Contains 1 legendary item of a random unique slot or random equipment slot with a small chance to be a unique or mythic item. Has multiple tiers that scale with level with greater rewards and greater costs at higher levels. The cost has been adjusted so it's no longer a cheap source of legendary aspects. Is now crafted at the blacksmith instead of the alchemist. Since this cache was very popular, making it more accessible, it's also broadening its applications. The highest tier cache is intended to be a late game material dump. There we go. Ancestral items are now guaranteed to have 1 greater affix. Nightmare dungeons are now a source of masterworking materials now that glyph experience has been moved to the pit. All beneficial Nightmare dungeon affixes have been removed with the exception of experience and gold increases. Okay. Smoldering Ashes are required has been updated. We've removed the character level requirement on those tiers and implemented a new system where Smoldering Ashes can only be unlocked with Earned Favor. Earned Favor is all the favor you earn in game by killing monsters, completing quests, and engaging with the season journey. It does not include favor awarded for anything outside of playing the game. Tier skips. Okay. These changes to Smoldering Ashes continue to ensure those who use tier skips cannot gain access of the benefits of Smoldering Ashes any sooner than players who don't. You will also be able to claim and use Smoldering Ashes as soon as you've earned enough favor. No more waiting around for your character to reach the level requirement. There's a new icon on the Battle Pass or reward track that displays your earned favor progress, so you know exactly how far you are from unlocking your next Smoldering Ashes. This also might make it incentivizing to just chase accomplishments in the season journey to unlock those as quickly as possible. So we might have to look at that as we get those rewards kind of put in our face and we see what happens there. But that is going to be big, especially now that it's based off of skill and how fast you can complete those challenges to unlock those. So we need to keep that in mind as well. I'm actually going to put a note of that in our spreadsheet. Let's see. So Ashes... Ashes can unlock the sooner you complete season journey requirements slash achievements. So something to keep our eyes open and be present about as well. Bug fixes. This was only possible in the Eternal Realm. Fixing the issue where excessive skill ranks to mark vision could result in 100% damage reduction. Recipes just trying to remove the season from hordes. Requires 200 ranks of the skill. Okay. Call of the Ancients have been slightly rebalanced. Druid. Okay, here's where we need to see. Guaranteed overpower from Obsidian Slam could be consumed by non-damaging abilities. I'm going to clarify what quests are referring to it in that line though. I would assume so with the quest when it says here, so favor earned by killing in-game monsters, completing quests, and engaging in the season journey. I would assume that the season journey, any sort of campaign quest that you complete, I'm pretty sure it entails literally anything. Side quests, campaign quests, season journey quests. I would assume they encapsulated it in all with one word. So I guess we'll find out, right? But that's just something to keep an eye out. Let's see, druids. The druids. Let's see. Basilisk was not properly doing its thing. Landslide could trigger Earthbreaker, Nature's Fury, Bloodless Scream, projectiles, Bone Golem. Fix an issue where curses cast by minions while using Blood Moon Breaches could curse the player. Curse upon your house, Wanderer. That's funny. Row got some changes. Victimize. Weaken ice barricades. Sorcerer fixed an issue where attacks reduce evade cooldown did not reduce the first teleport enchantment cooldown applied when equipping the Oculus. Other stuff like that. Fixed the issue where mythic unique items cannot drop for lower level item characters. Fixed an issue where tempering recipes and pit tier progression carried over for new seasonal characters. Definitely need to fix that. Fixed an issue where progression in the Onyx Watchtower. That's good. Fixed an issue where Whisper Invaders could drop blackened femurs, gurgling heads, and trembling hands. Cool. So they entirely got rid of that, and now everything just drops hearts, it sounds like, so that's good. Fixed an issue where the following damage effect sources did more damage to tormented bosses than intended: Veers, Gores, Skullbreakers, and Stormclaw. Okay. Fixed multiple instances where NPCs sometimes did not spawn for various quests which block quest progression. Gurgling heads. Phrasing. Fixed an issue where Tyrael's Might could be spammed more quickly than intended using channeled skills. Okay. Fixed an issue where Fist of Fate was not triggering its effect in multiple cases, so that's good. Fixed an issue where Temerity was not gaining the proper amount of barrier based on healing. Did they at least fix, what's it called, Soul Brand? That might be something that needs to get fixed. Fixed an issue where Hero Details was not displaying healing received from willpower. Fixed an issue where the buttons prompted modify and unequip on Paragon glyphs displayed as unavailable despite being functional. Funny. Fixed an issue where the damage bonus from Dark Dance aspect was displayed as multiplicative instead of additive in the tooltip. And fixed an issue where the icon for Rogue's inner sight could remain on slain enemies. Funny. All right. So we covered all of those. Let's cover the other patch notes as well for the Season of Hatred. Hatred Rising also starts right in line with the expansion, so these both go right hand in hand. So the new theme, the Realm Walkers, this event is going to take about 5 minutes to get to the portal. Then however long it takes you to get from the portal to the end is its own thing. So it says when the walker arrives at the ritual site, it'll slam into the ground, creating 3 hatred spires around it. You dismantle them and make it vulnerable. You can fight it as its own little boss, and you put the demonic behemoth to rest, and then you go in and fight something after you spend resource on a portal to fight the next challenges and get the reward at the end. So in this event itself, taking about 10 minutes to tear through, one spawns every 15 minutes. So you can assume that at the very clock of the hour, that after 15 minutes, one will spawn, and then every 15 minutes, another one will appear somewhere else, and it'll just go every 15 minutes like clockwork. At the top of the hour, there's one, 15 minutes, there's one, 30 minutes, there's one, so on and so forth, all the way through the hour. One of them will be a tree whisper. So the tree of whispers demands the power of the realm walkers. The first realm walker of every hour spawned in Estuar will be a whisper. Every 3 hours, the realm walker spawned in Nahantu will be a whisper. The way that I interpret this is that it's going to be overlapping. So 1 hour goes by, you get a tree whisper from this guy. Hopefully it's worth 5. We'll see. So 5 whispers, that hour passes. Next hour, another 5 whispers. That third hour, there will be 2 that spawn. One in the normal map of Sanctuary, and we can look at it here. Wait, where did I? Oh, whoops, my bad. So there will be one that spawns in the normal areas up here, but then another one will spawn down here in Nahantu, our new region, meaning that you can double dip on something that will take you 20 minutes to get a full tree turn in, just to go down here and get the rewards or whatever. You also walk away with the opal reward for doing that you paid for in going through the event, as well as up here in the other one that you go through. So you're getting 2 different rewards and stuff. So we only get 3 to 5 whispers per hour, and then additional 3 to 5 whispers in Nahantu. So you mean 3 to 5 groups of whispers? Is that what you're talking about, Zach? Every 3 hours. Yeah. So, I mean, Helltide's always up every hour, right? And it offers 10 whispers guaranteed every time. That is just a guarantee for Helltide. So that's why Helltide's also going to be kind of important. Also, Choco, what's up, man? And then the Rift Walker that spawns every hour. So you're looking at 15 guaranteed an hour on Helltide and the Rift Walker or Realm Walker. Then you're looking at 20 every 3 hours, right? 3 or 5 whispers, however much they're going to give us for this event. Oh, okay, yeah. So we only get 3 to 5 per hour. Yeah, so it'd be 5 guaranteed, 3 to 5 depending on. I really hope they do 5. Let's just speak that into existence. Yeah, 5 whispers. But then more rewards will fall in line, like world bosses. You have the PvP area. I think this is a 24-hour reset. So you get 24 hours to kill the PvP stuff. So there's another 5, 6. I think there's 12 here. I think, I'm not sure. Give us 10 Blizzard. Wouldn't that be nice? That would be crazy though. The turnover rate on that would be crazy. So yeah, we're gonna get 2 of those summons, so every 3 hours, and hopefully walk away with 10 whispers, maybe 20. Who knows? We'll see what the balance out is. Marching into these again, you're gonna go through, kill a bunch of stuff. The density seemed really nice. This is where you offer one of the 4 opals until you get to Torment, because you can only get the Seething Opal Torment challenges with the 200 Sigil Powder. If you are in Torment difficulty 1 or higher. Seething Opal of Torment can only be acquired while you're playing on Torment difficulty 1 or higher, right there. So, and then it gives you the examples. I can actually take a screenshot of this and do that bad boy, and we can copy this and paste it here. Stop it, you fucking knob. All right, we're gonna just shorten that down as well. Not allowed. About to go back to sleepy sleep. Go get your sleepy sleep, man. Thank you for popping in and saying hi. So we'll do that. There we go. Yeah, so that should be perfect, right where it is at. Cool. Chulio. So that's cool. All right, so close that and here. Okay, so, and then socketables can only be acquired if you are a Vessel of Hatred owner. So there's that caveat. The new quest line, we get a reputation track. There's a fucking That's our tooth falling out. Okay, so Paragon points have been adjusted. This means that all Paragon levels earned will be shared across all your characters on the same realm, seasonal or eternal, and mode, standard or hardcore in their respective partitions. So, too easy. To support the shift, made a number of changes. Paragon and character levels split if your character's level 100, blah, blah, blah. This is just about the stat squishes and stuff. We need to have a plan for day one activities, by the way, what we do after getting 60 Koros, number dungeons, etc. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I want to get more of an idea of what's actually the news that we're going to get, because I don't want to be like, oh, we're going to do Infernal Hordes, and then like the underbelly or the Undercity be the best thing, right? So like, I don't want to make any solid plans towards that until we get the game plan that everybody else who's been able to sit down and play the game comes up with that stuff, right? So we'll see. But these difficulties, nothing else crazy has changed here aside from the difficulty between jumping through these will actually be a massive jump in difficulty as well. So we'll see how that kind of goes. Receive feedback about level scaling, feeling weak, moving monster levels, change this. Obdicite is only masterworking material. Compasses are hard to come by, and open that bitch up in a T1. Yes, we'll see though. But they said that after you defeat the council, Infernal Compass would drop. So we'll see, right? Obdicite doesn't drop in the pit, but it drops in Nightmare Dungeons, Infernal Hordes, Undercity. These can be transmuted down. Glyphs. Glyphs have undergone a metamorphosis to better meld with the other changes we've made. Upgrading a glyph no longer driven by experience. Instead, you're given attempts to increase glyphs upgrades. Increase the glyph. If you don't die, you get a bonus attempt. Glyph gets extra experience based on the max level of the pit that you've done. So 10 higher than your glyph rank guarantees a rank upgrade. Completing a pit tier that is significantly higher than your glyph's current rank grants bonus upgrade per rank. These didn't get changed. All of that's the same. Each class has a new Paragon board. I'm gonna need 4 open socket armor now for sure to put the word out there. Why 4 open socket? That's funny. These Paragon boards each come with a new legendary node and extra normal nodes, meant to enhance the legendary glyph's range. Rare nodes that received adjustments will make them generally more useful. Additionally, only 5 Paragon boards can be equipped, including your starter board. They definitely readjusted the wording on that because it sounds like 5 Paragon boards means like I think they worded it better in the patch notes, meaning you could only have 4 boards plus your starting board. This makes it sound like including. I don't know. I think they worded it better before. Paragon points increase from 200 to 300 points. Item rework we already know about and everything that's coming there. Waypoint and wardrobe updates. We now get instead of teleporting by default to the closest waypoint located in a hub city, you can now favorite a waypoint. Wardrobe is accessed through wherever you're at. GG's. 4 Vex, baby. Well, then you wouldn't be able to generate offerings. So, also, last I checked, Dragon told me that led to a 404, so I do have to update that. But thank you for reminding me, Zach. New skills. We've already gone over those notes. Those. I need to fix that link. Yeah, I know. I just got the patch notes today, man. Chill, calm down. Season journey rewards, blah 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 blah. Hosts 90 tiers, blah blah blah. Urn of opals, urn of remnant, increase your reputation, earn of curiosities. Yeah. I can do this in steady spaghetti. That's an error too. No. Oh, it's because that's why. I was like, what did you just do? I could do that. Then leads to the new stuff. The link that I'm going to put in there is going to lead directly to these notes as well. You goober. All right, bold wand. We get a party finder. Sweet. This thing looks cool. It looks like Green Goblin if he was turned purple and then given glaives. And then community guides for Season of Hatred Rising, all of these other sources. So yeah, find our stuff on Maxroll. I like how D4builds.gg is not on here as well. That's kind of funny. But yeah, so that in its entirety covers everything that we've covered. We will have more information coming over the next couple of weeks, and we'll have a lot more content posted as well on YouTube, as well as our builds that we'll be theory crafting and just blasting with. So with that being said, keep an eye out for max roll builds. Keep an eye out for YouTube guides and everything of the like. We'll be posting content on a near daily basis once the expansion starts. For anybody watching over on YouTube, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns or anything like that, sound off in the comments down below. I know this was quite the watch. If you guys are watching, I do appreciate it. If you got all the way to the end, if you just wanted a quick synopsis, a lot of things in the game are constantly evolving, and the game is in, I personally feel like, a great place right now. I have not tested anything that is currently changed from the PTR, which sucks because I really hope that this stuff doesn't come out this way. Also, Wraith, Stevo, no, it's not a VOD. It's going to be though. But I'm just trying to be proactive with the way that I create my content by taking my VODs directly out of my stream. So if you are watching this on YouTube, appreciate y'all. If y'all are here currently, I appreciate y'all. Yeah, if you want to go over to YouTube, the link will be in chat. My Twitch page will be linked right below as well. But if y'all want to go either way, if you're coming from YouTube over to Twitch, come actively chat while we're live. If you're in Twitch, go over to YouTube, like the videos, leave comments on them. Again, sound off in the comments of anything you'd like to see or anything that is intriguing you for this expansion. If you got any questions about the expansion itself and you're on the table or on the fence about not making any jumps to get the expansion yet, by all means, we love to talk about it and give you incentives to detail everything that comes with the expansion. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to stop by. Links will be down below. But I appreciate you guys for being here, and I will see y'all in the next video. So thank you for being here, guys.